Hello everyone and welcome along to round 3 of the 2017 GPVWC Storm Charge Super League season. We are here from a rain-affected Shanghai, China for the Chinese Grand Prix. We're in qualifying at the moment in what is set to be a bit of an interesting one because the first wet qualifying session we've had all year and it's already throwing up some interesting results. I'm Joshua Anderson. I'll be taking you through qualifying today and at present it is Gergo Baldi for Wouters Automotive on pole position in conditions that are so bad it requires the full wet tyre. So we got a wet qualifying then, and it's thrown up a surprise already. Baldi on pole from the winner last time out, Alex Cooper in the Hawkeye, championship leader as well. Then is Rudy Van Buren, the one everyone wants to beat, and really the one who wants a win after his problems at Russia last time out. He is going to want this. He's in 4th in the standings at the moment, and he knows a pole position will set him up great for this race ahead. Another Hawkeye in the top 5, Tobias Olsen in 4th place at the moment, followed by Bart de Vos in the Kernow Sport. So some good results from people at the moment. Reigning champion David Feidick is in P8. So the number 1 Nordstrom car in a decent qualifying position as well, although not quite as high up as he would like. But in a race which is forecast to see changeable conditions, someone like Mr. Consistency, as we like to call David Feidick, could shine, so keep an eye on him. So yes, Shanghai, China, already played races of some some great races in Formula Challenge and Super Cup so far this week, and we got another fantastic race coming up in the form of the Super League event. And it's going to be interesting to see who comes out on top here in this qualifying session, at the least in a race where qualifying might end up being extremely important, or not as important as it would otherwise be. Fran Lopez has just gone up to P7 in the Adonis engineering car there, and notably for Fran, he is going to start this race on a very, very worn engine unit. It only has 34% life left in it, so he is going to struggle here because, well, you'd think he would actually with the if it was dry conditions, but in the wet you can get away with it a little bit easier because you don't need, there's not such speed overall, the engine uses less, so he might just get away with that in an Adonis car on that 33%, 34% engine. But it could be that we have our first mechanical breakdown of the season if it doesn't last, and we'll be keeping a beady eye on Fran Lopez this race. Of course, that Adonis car, one of the best on the grid at the moment in terms of development points. As it stands, they are quite high up in the race to see who has the best car. They are on 57. They're on 53 points overall, 4 behind Nordstrom Racing, but they have a more developed car. They've worked less on the pit speed, so their car is a little bit better than Nordstrom's. Storm Racing lead the development points race, but again, they've done quite a bit on the pit front. But even without that, they'd lead by a while from not the next sort of cars ahead at the likes of Hawkeye, Kernow. So they are the best car on the grid at the moment, Storm Racing, so expect good things from them. By comparison, Lee Morris in 2nd place in that Madcape is nigh on a miracle for a team with only 12 points in the bank, when every other team, even with pit repair times and pit fix times and changeovers and tyres, even considering all that, they have a third of the points of the next most developed car. And that's the second last car of Wouters. They have a third of the points, and they're challenging for pole. It's a testament, really, to how talented a driver Lee Morris is. And let's not forget his teammate either. Because, well, Mitchell de Jong in 15th place at the moment, still very respectable, all things considered. Mitchell, a very good driver in his own right, of course. But very, very good results. Looking up and down the field, I've noticed, obviously, there's no Daniel Benefield because he has actually retired from Super League, unfortunately. We won't be seeing Daniel in this season, I don't think, anymore, but it has been great to have him around nonetheless. He's definitely showed some very good race pace and really one of the drivers who I thought we were going to be looking out for this season. His replacement for this round, at least, is Jason Muscat, the Maltese, in the number 21 car then, so Muscat is going to be one to look out for because we know how good a driver he is. He's had great results elsewhere and great results within GPVWC, so keep an eye on him. He's in 19th at the moment, but that doesn't mean he can't go further up the order. Speaking of cars going further up the order, David Feidick has improved to 4th. He will then start on the 2nd row if he keeps this up, and it's looking good for him now in 4th place, only half a second almost down on Baldi, who's still on pole position. Only a couple of back of the grid penalties to serve this race. The standard of racing obviously so high in Super League at the moment, but only a couple of penalties need serving, and there's only 3 drivers with back of the grid penalties to go for this race. So I'll run you through those now, and obviously those drivers will go to the back of the grid, but qualifying is still important for them because they'll start ahead of each other. So as it stands, drivers with back of the grid penalties to serve this race are Matt Varley, Adrian Norton and Matty Mlynek. And out of those, Mlynek has not bothered to set, none of them have really bothered to set laps, but Mlynek is trying, as I do believe we've just been graced with the presence of a Jake Sanson.
Couldn't really have been better timed, could it really, with all the drama about to finish off in qualifying. Diego Baldi just about holding on in front of Lee Morris, but with a crucial minute to go, there might just be one final sting in the tail, perhaps, Josh.
Yeah, a couple of drivers have really looked like they've been on good laps recently, and as I'm saying, Lee Morris, even though that car is not well, very slow, Captain has just put a bit of a spanner in the works there, snatching pole from the Hungarian with a 152.3, but as you rightly say, Jake, anything can happen in this last minute of qualifying, and as we've just seen with Capet, drivers have not necessarily completed their best laps yet.
Well, there's definitely a couple of drivers who are pushing it to the limit. I've been very interested watching the qualifying session from my position, looking at the speed of Rudy Van Buren compared to his rivals. It's quite unusual to see him at this point in the form that the Vodball Racing team have been in the season, to see them 0.3 of a second back. Even Risto Capit now is not able to go faster than his best in the first sector. Just looking to see if anybody's able to get a major improvement. Well, it doesn't look as though, although Maciej Mlanek, having said that, right at the bottom, has just done a 29.6, so that's only a 10th off Risto Capit last time. And Rudy Van Buren has just done a 29.2. That's his personal best in the first sector. Could be a couple of changes as the clock runs out.
Yeah, clock running out, and Mlenek on a lap at the moment, of course, will be the first of the cars ahead of Varley Norton, who will serve the back of the grid. He will go ahead of them. We're not going to make many inroads in terms of actual qualifying position. But yeah, at the moment, I've just seen Lee Morris has got a purple sector onto his name. Yep. So that could be that he now snatches pole if he can keep it up in the next 2. But it's still very early to call it in that lap. But what a feat it would be.
Well, the pressure is on him, but if he goes purple in the second, and that would be looking at towards a 34.4, Capet finishes his lap. It's not better. It's still a 152.3. That's the pole lap. Morris's second split is a 34.6. Now, that might be enough if he can keep the pace up in the third split, because Baldi's just done his personal best second split on a 34.5. So this is going to be close. It could go down to the final 1,000th of a second.
Baldi's just done the exact same sector 2 time as Van Buren, and Van Buren was quicker than him, so we might see an improvement from the Dutchman either way. But Morris has got to get a good last sector if he wants pole from Capet, because he needs it now with that second sector that wasn't on the pace. And well, coming in at the last corner now, it's pretty much make or break for him as Van Buren has just gone pole. Yeah, Van Buren
just 152.9. Bang on, absolutely on cue. He manages to just get there. That was ridiculously close, but he manages to get there. So now it's all about what Morris can do in the final sector.
He's already completed his lap, Jake. He only got up to 3rd. He didn't improve much, and Baldi will remain 4th. Feidig jumps up to 5th by the looks of it. Good lap from him as well. We still got Fran Lopez coming round, but I'm not sure how quick he's looking. I think his personal best for him, he is going to go up to 10th indeed. He moves up. Mlynek on a 53.7 at the moment, 16th to Panic, and of course, Volley McNaughton. Mlynek will start ahead of by virtue of setting a lap of Van Buren on pole for the Chinese Grand Prix.
Well, that's 3 pole positions in a row then. Absolutely incredible from Rudy Van Buren. That is 3 in a row now, isn't it?
Well, I think it is. I think it's 3 from 3.
How on earth has he found that pace right in the last? Just when you think, someone else will start with a clear track in front of them. Nope, Rudy Van Buren comes along and spoils the party right at the death. But Risto Capit on the front row of the grid, that's definitely going to give the Vodball team something to smile about. Morris in 3rd position, though, that's interesting because he did say he was going to look very strong coming into Shanghai. Diego Baldi up to 4th position. He'll be pleased to start from the 2nd row. David Feidig in 5th position with Bart de Vos. Cooper, he might be a little unhappy with 7th position, and considering how close it is, that will be a particularly frustrating one for him. Olsen in 8th position in front of Daniel Chiranku, Fran Lopez rounding out the top 10, and then we have Jordan Gaia, Redshaw, David Francic on his return, Emmanuel Gastiela ahead of Maciej Mlanek, then we have Jupanek, Hintz, De Jong, Jacobs, Muscat, Willis, Varley, and at the back is Adrian McNaughton.
I'm just going to point something out here. Have you seen the gap between 9th and 16th place? It's 0.2 of a second.
You really got to blink in the right direction in this grid. Otherwise, you could see yourself starting 4 rows back from the guy you're only 0.2 of a second off. It's absolutely phenomenal how close we are. But again, we're not really sure how this midfield battle is going to cook up at Shanghai because it's all about power and it's all about setup. So this is going to be difficult because there's going to be 7 or 8 drivers who all feel they've got a claim to be in the top 10. There's only going to be a few people behind the Vodbulls and the Hawkeyes of this world and the Nordsjens, of course, who feel that they have a right to be there.
Yep, and that it's going to be interesting to see, you know, especially in that tight midfield, how it's going to go. And, well, now we go into the warm-up session, and, well, rain at the start as well. This, I think, is going to be the first wet start we've had in Super League of the year. So, interesting to see who's going to make the most advantage out of that, too. It's all a bit new.
They really are spoiling us with this one, aren't they, the Shanghai locals? Giving us a wet race to go into and all of the drama that we've already had from the first 2 rounds, knowing how close it is in the Drivers' Championship as well, with Cooper narrowly ahead of the rest of the field. This is going to be a difficult one to call. Rudy Van Buren, of course, is going to be the money man for the outside bet for the victory because he will still be feeling that frustration from Sochi where he had the victory in his lap, one hand on the trophy, and then got disconnected in exact shades of what happened to him the previous year. So this is going to be a difficult one for Rudy Van Buren because he needs to prove that that speed is still there, that he hasn't been caught, but the pressure will be on him in the back of his mind, and that is going to cause a little bit of a psychological hellhole unless he's got the composure to deal with it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if he can. I mean, if anyone's going to bounce back, it's going to be Van Buren because we know how good he is, and it was utter bad luck that graphics freeze took him out of the race to Sochi, but he's going to, I was speaking to him before the race, he is going to bounce back, I think. He's going to be one of those drivers who, if it's going to happen, it's going to be him who bounces back. You can tell because, you know, he's a lot more, he's a positive. I know it can be devastating for a driver when that sort of thing happens, but I just reckon he's going to be able to put that behind him and move on.
Absolutely. Why do you think it is, though? I mean, we're talking about this going into the 3rd round of the championship. It's interesting because those 2 Vod Bull drivers, Rudy Van Buren and Risto Capit, we know the level and the quality of these 2 drivers, Josh. Why do we think it is that Rudy has been able to have such an edge at this point of the season over Risto? I mean, in terms of 1 lap pace, there isn't much to choose between them. But why is it that Rudy's been able to get such an advantage in racecraft over Risto? What's behind that, do we think?
Well, I think Rudy, it's just, in terms of an absolute race scenario, Rudy obviously has experience from Midnight Motorsports last year. This is Risto Capit's first full year in Super League, and as talented as he is, these 2017 cars are different beasts to the ones that they drove last year. There's wider rear tyres, a different rear wing, there's wider, more rear downforce. So many changes made to these cars, and they're a lot quicker. And even for someone like Risto, it's going to be a difficult thing to adapt to.
Of course, there's plenty of other drivers who are going to want to push their way forward. We're in the warm-up, of course, the last few minutes before the race gets underway, so the drivers will be making their last-minute adjustments. There's quite a few drivers, particularly the Brits, who want to get in amongst the Vod Bulls at the start. Morris, Fiduk, Cooper, they're all very close indeed. Let's do it.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the 2017 GPVWC Stormcharge Super League season. Apologies for the break in proceedings, but we are back in action here at Shanghai. We have just completed the first lap. We're on the second. Rudy Van Buren leading things away from Risto Kappa, from Gergo Baldi, from Lee Morris, Bartavos. I'm Josh Anderson, and alongside me is Jake Sanson. Jake, frantic first lap by the looks of things.
Well, yes, it certainly looks as though it's been a bit topsy-turvy throughout the field, but interestingly, at the front end of the field, it's been quite conservative. Van Buren and Capet, the two Vodbull cars, getting an early lead in the early stages, so as far as they're concerned, it's business as usual. However, I'm not so sure it's going to stay that way, because we've already talked about the fact it's going to be very wet today for a period of the race, but it will not remain wet indefinitely. Rudy Van Buren has the advantage. You can see the spray everywhere here at Shanghai. But interestingly, Van Buren is not a massive way ahead of his teammate, although the two Vodbull cars are already threatening to get away from the rest of the field. Diego Baldi in third position is an interesting one. Lee Morris having slipped back into fourth position with Bart de Vos and David Feidek having to battle away. In fact, a couple of drivers having to get out of the spray of their opponents. That's Lee Morris just getting out of the spray of Diego Baldi so that he can see a little bit more of what's going on around him. Fran Lopez makes the dive up the inside of Feidek, and he gets through into the top six. This is a great charge forward from Lopez. The first two laps have been fast and frenetic for him as he comes up from 10th position to the top six. This is great work from Fran Lopez.
Didn't have a great qualifying, did Fran, but he's gotten past Feidek with a sensational move there. He's just a move out the spray, and Feidek's in the 12th from Alex Cooper. Race winner last time out with Sochi now. And Cooper looking all down the back of that oxygen car there. And he's thinking of sizing him up as soon as he can, but it's not going to happen through turn one. Such a difficult corner to get right, never a low overtake at, so he's going to have to wait his turn here. But he's going to have to size something up. Feidek gets a little bit oversteery out of the exit of two there, so might be that he has it going to the next turn.
Well, Feidek versus Cooper is getting very intense in the early stages as Cooper makes a look to have a go at Feidek. As they go into the right-hander, Cooper's teammate Olsen gets a massive twitch as he comes off the curb. Emmanuel Gasjela, the Romanian, is in there behind in 10th position. Then Florian Gaia, Daniel Chiranku from Redshaw, Hinz, Jacobs, Jordan, Linek. We only have one retirement so far, and that is Ben Zubanek. Michel de Jong has come into the pits, so that must be a little bit of a tussle those two have had. But disappointing to see Zubanek out of this one.
Cooper's been overtaken by his own teammate. Olsen's gotten through, but not without a little bit of contact. Obviously, no team orders going on at Hawkeye then. These two drivers free to battle it out between each other, and that can throw an interesting dynamic into the mix as well, especially if Cooper will be talking in the podium.
Well, Gasjela now might get an opportunity to go for Cooper as well. How times have changed in a fortnight. At Sochi, this was Alex Cooper's race. Here in Shanghai, it's a very difficult one, although he's made a beautiful move on the inside to get back past his Swedish teammate. Now he'll be gesturing to Tobias Olsen. Come on, we can't keep fighting like this. We need to get after Lopez and Feidek up ahead of us because we've got Gasjela on the tail as well. Olsen does not look to repeat the move, but these two have got to be careful. If they continue to hold each other up, they're going to lose hand over fist. Bags of time. In fact, they're already 10 seconds off the pace of Rudy Van Buren and Risto Capet, who are already over the start line. But interestingly, Diego Baldi is managing to stay with Van Buren and Capet at the moment. He's dropped Lee Morris. Diego Baldi's your danger man right now.
He has flying up the order. Gagzela's gotten past Olsen after he got a terrible exit out of the final turn, and that puts him remaining up. But yeah, Gergo Baldi, real threat to the rest of the field at the moment, to Capet and Van Buren. He is the one they want to be really scared about, because Baldi, having gotten himself very near pole position but being denied it, now he's going to have a race win on his mind, surely, because he knew, pace-wise, he was up there in qualifying, and now for Baldi, he's going to be thinking that maybe, if the circumstances with the drying weather play into his hands, he could have himself a win.
Diego Baldi running a good race at the moment in third position. Still only 4 seconds away from the race lead. Dropping Lee Morris into the clutches of Bart de Vos. And that could be a very tasty little battle as this race continues. Fran Lopez is under some pressure now from David Feidek. I don't think David took very kindly to the fact that Fran Lopez was there on the inside. He wants to get him back again. The number one, the reigning champion, David Feidek, wanting to get himself back into the top six. Been a very interesting rejuvenation for Feidek in the last race here. It's Shanghai. He's really struggling to maintain the top six at the moment. Just looking to see who else is on a bit of a breakaway. Well, Olsen is down to 17th. What happened there for Tobias Olsen? Didn't see what happened.
Well, it's all going a bit wrong for Tobias. I'm going to look back and see if I can go see what he's had enough. What's happened is he's gone into one of the turns and had enough, maybe contact with somebody, went into the gravel trap and had to let cars through, and that has really hurt his race. And it's really hurt Hawkeye's race. And Madcape, another team who've had problems. Mitchell de Jong is out of the race with no rear wing, I think after experimenting on the intermediate tyres.
Yeah, that's a really difficult moment there for Mitchell de Jong. Unfortunately, his race well and truly over now. Oh, and Olsen's had a spin at the hairpin. A half spin there. He almost loses it in front of Adrian McNaughton. That was a really big moment there for Olsen. He manages to save the car. But that just shows you Tobias Olsen is into the pits. He's no slouch, Tobias Olsen. But this is how tricky the conditions really are. He's sliding around all over the place. In the wet conditions, this circuit is an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, and in the wet, it just gets even worse. I mean, it's a tricky track, Shanghai, as it is. But in the wet, it just gets worse. And Olsen's going to probably switch on to a new set of wets or fix some damage or something. Is why he's in the pits. But he is going to have to exit now. He's going to need the race of his life to get back into the good positions now from the way back he is. I mean, Van Buren now, at least a minute, you'd argue, pretty much touching a minute ahead of him. I mean, Francic is just close to Olsen, so it's going to be very difficult, the gap now. Van Buren himself has 2 seconds to cap it.
Yes, he does indeed. He's pulled out the gap. Interesting that we mentioned David Francic. Obviously, he was being replaced in the first 2 races of the season by Maciej Mlinek. But now it looks as though the team has obviously decided Maciej is worth hanging on to. David Francic has stepped up, and that means that the third man in the equation has been moved aside there in this team, Josh.
Not moved aside, is retired as such. I was speaking to Ben Horrell after the race, and he said he was going to step down from Superleague after that race. So, well, we won't be seeing Ben Horrell again this season, I do believe. This is going to be a permanent move for Francic and Mlinek.
Well, that's good to see that we've got Maciej Mlinek continuing on his early season progress, but must be a long day at the office ahead for the likes of Ben Willis, Tobias Olsen and David Francic. Those 3 drivers right down at the back. And unfortunately, they're a little way behind Matt Varley, who is there in the Trinity-backed Green Struts racing car. Matt Varley trying to keep up with the Red Archer VRT of Jason Muscat. Now, into the pits comes Capit. Risto Capit is in the pits.
He is, yes. Now, this is interesting, having only done 6 laps or 5 laps on those wets. Is that how long they really last in these conditions?
Well, how many pit stops are these guys going to go for? 8? 9? This is going to be one of those races again, isn't it?
Stick a number in random.org and see what it comes out with.
Well, Capit rejoins in front of Maciej Mlinek, and that kits him there behind Dennis Jordan. Now, that's a big problem, actually, for the Vodbull driver. He's right in the midst of the traffic, and Jordan in front of him will be feeling the heat of Risto Capit underneath him, the Estonian. Now, this is a problem for Risto. He's going to need to carve his way through the field quickly. Perhaps they are splitting the strategies in these 2 Vodbull cars as Risto dives up the inside in the right-hander, takes on Dennis Jordan. Now he's going to go after Thomas Jacobs. But this could be potentially a volatile decision here for the Vodbull team. Lee Morris has been passed by Bart de Vos. I didn't see what happened there. What happened to Morris?
De Vos has gone through, but I can't discern how he did it because unfortunately my replay doesn't stretch back well enough and good enough quality to see for sure. But I think Morris must have gone off or something, but De Vos is a considerable distance ahead now.
Yeah, the gap between Van Buren and Baldi is 5.6, and Morris is 2 seconds behind Bart de Vos. So he must have had a moment. Now that means with that pit stop, well, David Feidek has dropped back somewhere along the line as well. He's down to 9th position. We need to be really hawky-eyed with these drivers in the top 10 because they're slipping around all over the place in these conditions. Lewis Redshaw now on the back of David Feidek, with Florian Gaia up into 8th position. In fact, Gaia is making the bid to make a move on Lopez. Is he going to get there? No, Lopez breaks later. He's going to hold on to it, but Emmanuel Gasgella has got past Lopez. So Gaia is looking to try and make the same move. Watch Emmanuel Gasgella in this race. He seems to have hit form.
He does seem. I've just noticed Alex Cooper in the pit, so maybe these wets are not lasting. But yeah, Gasgella Lopez in too. And, well, yeah, maybe he's just hit form here. He's in P5.
Floodgates have opened. Cooper's in. Lopez is in. Who else is going to make their way into the... Well, just those 2 at the moment by the look of it. Look at this crowd of cars we got coming down the straight with Hinz on the inside of Jacobs. Jordan round the outside. This could end in tears. Jacobs is hanging it round the outside. Behind them, we've got Jordan and Linux side by side. Hinz slides wide. Jacobs is going to hold it to the inside line for the left-hander. This is a brilliant bit of battling between these 4 drivers. Jacobs holds the inside line. Hinz is there. Mlinek is trying to come up on the inside. Dennis Jordan in 13th position with Daniel Sharanku in 14th position. Adrian McNaughton not far away. What a battle this is for 10th position.
Yeah, Mlinek just tries to go around the outside, doesn't work. Hinz gets position, then gets squiggly. Then Dennis Jordan gets his chance, and it's Sharanku. any one of these drivers could come out with 10th place.
Thomas Hinz has got a little bit of a problem with Daniel Sharanku, the Hungarian, breathing down his neck, but Dennis Jordan is going to outfox them both if they're not careful. Sharanku gets through. Maciej Minek makes a move on Hinz and gets by, so Jacobs in 10th position. Now having some pressure at the moment. These guys absolutely on the lock stops as they come through. Meanwhile, we've got a similar battle cooking up for 6th position with the two Nordian drivers, Florian Geyer and David Feidek, being caught by Lewis Redshaw and Risto Capet. So on the new tyres, Capet is actually running quickly now. This seems to suggest to me that the two Vodball drivers are splitting strategies because Rudy Van Buren is not coming in and Capet is staying up. No, Van Buren is coming in. So too is Baldi.
Yep, crucially as well, Capet is passing this train for 10th. He's going to get past Jacobs. He's going to promote himself into 9th. But we got Varley in, we have Van Buren in, we have Baldi in, Morrison. Really, these wet tyres are not lasting.
No, they're really not. Interestingly, Bart de Vos continues on. Gashgela goes, Geyer goes off. And that's because his teammate David Feidek has elected to go into the pits. So our new race leader is Bart de Vos. Emmanuel Gashgela. What's happened?
Hinz has been knocked from behind by one of the Woods cars. And that is Thomas Jacobs, who was in 10th.
Oh, that was messy.
What's happened is that he's been overtaken by Mlinek and Hinz in double formation, and he's just completely missed his braking point and ploughed into the back of the Australian. Well, that's not gone awfully well at all, and well, Hinz is not going to be happy about that, especially from where he was. It looked to be only a minor knock. Maybe he can get away without damage, but it's the track position it's cost really. Morris up to 10th now, McNaughton, Sharanko ahead. Then the likes of Baldy, but DeVos leading this race after still not pitting from those wets. But Van Buren is 13 seconds down the line on new tyres.
I was just going to say, yeah, Van Buren is in 2nd position on new tyres. So they've obviously decided, you know what? It's better to just cook these tyres to their death and then put some fresh boots on because he's there in 2nd position, having not lost a massive amount of time. Capet is absolutely storming onto the back of Florian Geyer. Emmanuel Gashgela in 3rd position. Risto Capet's going like lightning. Diego Baldi's gone with him for company. But Risto Capet, this is what we were saying. Capet has definitely been, he's been the experimental driver of the two football teams. It's almost as if the team think he's the expendable driver as the newbie in the team. But he is there in 5th position, right on the back of Florian Geyer. He's really having to race for his supper, isn't he? As he comes down the back straight, Florian Geyer is going to be mincemeat on the slipstream. Let's have a look. He's already having a go at Emmanuel Gashgela as well. We could end up 3 wide by the braking zone. Watch out, Emmanuel.
Well, he won't have to watch out that much because Capet, while he is close, he's not going to, well, he might do actually. He might have to watch out into the last side. Gets so squiggly out there, the Capet might just go through before he even get there, and he has done. So
and what if they want to come in the pits? Gashgela's in, Geyer's in. That was so tight. They almost hit each other as Bart de Vos is in the pits as well. That neutralises things. Van Buren's back in the lead. Capet back in a second. But that was so close for Gashgela and Geyer. They almost got taken off the road on the way to the pits.
Yeah, that was so close, so tight battling, but it worked out in the end. Geyer and Gashgela are going to be right close to each other come this pit stop coming out. They're going to be close. They were in and out. Mlinek up to 5th in all this from practically the back of the grid. He has probably been the driver of the race so far, just taking advantage of everything that has gone on. DeVos impressive in 4th, Baldy 3rd, Capet 2nd, but Van Buren, now everyone else behind him that he needs to pit has pitted. He's going to start extending that hand again.
So of the drivers who have yet to pit, Maciej Minek is in front in 6th position. The next one in the line is Adrian McNaughton. Oh, and Mlinek goes wide. Mlinek goes wide there. Morris goes a little bit deep as well. They managed to get it back together, but Adrian McNaughton has yet to pit, and he finds himself in 9th position in front of David Feidek. Now, if he can hold this kind of pace for a little while and utilise the wet tyres he's got, then McNaughton could end up. This is almost the Jos Verstappen arrow sort of drive for Adrian McNaughton. He's doing well there in 9th position with his teammate, of course, Emmanuel Gashgela, now behind him on the road, but having already pitted.
Yeah, he needs to do that, and obviously with the cars that have pitted, they've got the advantage. They're on fresher rubber. They have the grip, and the cars that haven't don't, and they will need to pit, of course. But really, for the likes of Mlinek, it's a case of just do as well as I can until I have to pit. But he's doing a good job in 6th at the moment still, even though he hasn't actually made the stops yet. And as this track dries out, we'll find that the strategies change up.
Only 3 drivers have yet to pit. Maciej Minek, Adrian McNaughton, and the third man in that equation is Thomas Hinz in 12th position. In fact, he's getting a little bit of a challenge from Gasjela, as further up the road, McNaughton is getting a threat from David Feidek. McNaughton shuts the door nicely. Gasjela down the inside of Thomas Hinz. Thanks for the memories, mate. I'm in a 12th position. Thanks very much. But he gets it wide on the undercut. Hinz might get through. No, he doesn't. Gasjela stops it on the lock stops very nicely. But Florian Gaia is coming through on the inside of Thomas Hinz. There's not a lot he can do. Hinz dies for the pits. He can't hang on these tyres any longer.
That was a tactical decision and a well thought out one there. Avoided a potential collision in the last turn as well if he'd got that wrong, which I trust he wouldn't have, but he manages to get himself into the pits either way. And that is a clever call, I think, from Hinz to pit then McNaughton in as well. So he'll be reasonably close to the Storm driver as well. And while Storm Racing 11th and 14th is all right, but when you consider they have the best car in the grid, it's not really where they hope to be.
David Francic back in the pits a second time. Not quite sure what's happening for Francic. I'm guessing this is just a scheduled tyre change, so he's still trying to make up as much progress as he can. Yes, it's a change of boots. It's nothing more than that, but the only man now yet to pit is Maciej Minek, and again, he is there in the top 6 after another rip-roaring effort. Formula Challenge racing on Tuesday night definitely helps out Maciej learn a racetrack for what he needs to know for the Super League race. This is absolutely cracking again from Maciej. This is the man we saw in Australia.
Yeah, he's really been the star of the season so far, one could argue. He pulls out these performances when he needs it, and well, it's going to be very interesting to see how he progresses. Those tyres actually don't look as worn as some others who came in.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because he seems to be the only driver who's been able to make use of these conditions. I wonder if he's been drilling tyres in practice on these conditions, on this compound, because he seems to really have found a nice little rhythm. Okay, he's losing a little bit of time to Lopez, but it's not massive. In fact, if he could save himself a pit stop before the dries, Linet could find himself firmly in the top 10. This is a really mature drive.
I was about to say, in the long run, if he plays the long game, saving those tyres might be worth it, because he'll lose a pit, he'll lose some time, yeah. But if he can save a pit stop, he'll be firmly chasing down the likes of... A pit stop here is about 15 seconds, so it could save him a lot of time.
Very true. The next battle up the road, though, is the second place battle. Diego Baldi is putting the pressure on the Estonian Risto Capit, this year's Master Series champion. Diego Baldi, the Hungarian, is going to push him to the ragged edge here. The back end comes around a little, but he manages to catch it and actually uses that to his advantage. He gets the car planted into gear very nicely. You sweep through the left-hander. You've got to have confidence in this car. It's a little blip of the throttle in these conditions. In the dry, you can pretty much hang it out there full chout. But on this particular occasion, they're having to tiptoe their way around this car. Very abrasive in wet conditions. We found that out in the early stages already as Muscat and Olsen are in the pits once again. Olsen rejoins, but that puts him down in 20th position. Only Francic and Willis are now behind him, with De Jong and Zupanek out of the race, as we know. But this is going to be an interesting battle. Diego Baldi really heightening up the pressure on Risto Capit.
Yeah, really starting to turn the screw now as Diego Baldi, and he's putting pressure on Capit. And as you say, the Master Series champion is Risto. It took him until last year to win his first championship in World GT, but he's been on form ever since, and he really has given it the full beans. But unfortunately, he's under threat from Baldi now. Baldi's not going to get him on the straight by the looks of it, unless he does some very tricky braking, which he's not going to do. And yeah, it's not happened for Gergo, but he's still lining them up.
Next lap, I can see this happening next lap, because Risto came off the hairpin, the long sweeping right-hander, and the back end of the car twitched like crazy. It was almost like a drunk dad on a dance floor. He managed to get the car pointed in the right direction and back on the power without losing too much time. But now Diego Baldi knows where he's vulnerable, so Risto Capit has an opportunity here to hold him at bay, but he can't afford to spend too much time battling away with Gergo. He's got to be very confident about where he positions the car. He can't afford to expend the tyres in a racing battle. He needs to look after them, especially if these tyres are only lasting, what, 6-7 laps. In fact, Maciej Minek is in the pits from 9th position, having let Cooper and Feidek go through. Redshaw's back in the pits as well. So we might be getting the second round of pit stops now. Maciej is only in for the first time, of course, but he's out quickly. He'll still be around the 13th, 14th position mark when he exits the pits. But watch for Risto Capit coming into the pit shortly.
Yeah, Maciej Minek is really, to do what he's done, you know, make the tyres practically last double what other people have, is amazing in its own right. He's going to save a pit stop, and he's going to come out in 11th, but he's going to gain loads of time. And the fact that everyone else is going to come in, and the likes of Capit Capit, you know, these drivers are going to be coming in soon, you'd think, because their tyres are not lasting as long as the poles are.
Yeah, if these tyres are not lasting long, if I'm Risto Capit, I'm going to pit now because I've got Gergo Baldi all over the back. He's pushing me. He's giving me a lot of pressure. I'm losing a little bit of time to Rudy Van Buren in every single corner. It's only a couple of hundredths of a second here, there, or whatever, but I need fresh boots. The problem is going to be where he gets out. Looking at the times, he's probably going to get out around the Fran Lopez, Alex Cooper mark, I would suggest. So he's got to be very careful about how he gets out because you've actually got Lopez, Cooper, Fidek in a three-way scrap at the moment. If he pits now and gets out in that sort of position, it's going to be really difficult to position himself right at the front of that pack. But he needs to think about that as a risk because Gergo Baldi is there. Yes, he's pitting. He's pitting.
I don't blame him. Probably wants fresh rubber at this point because he's got a battle big behind him. He's got to get off those tyres and on the new ones. The likes of Meinek are just, well, Meinek is he's going to be happy that people are pitting now because it's going to be potential free or closing up on free positions for him in the long run. But yeah, we got this whole battle going on between Lopez, Cooper and Fidek as well. All three of these drivers stay out and it could get very elbows extension going on soon in terms of battling between them.
See, Capit's going to get out behind David Fidek. He's going to get out behind Fidek, and that's going to be a bit of a headache because Capit, there he goes. He rejoins right behind the Brit, David Fidek. Gaia is about 5 seconds down the road, so he might not be too much of a threat. But watch Gergo Baldi on this lap. Surely this is going to be him into the pits at the end of this lap as well. He's got a clear track ahead of him. Capit has fresh boots, but doesn't. He's got the reigning champion up the road. This could be Gergo Baldi moving into second position overall. But he's going to have to be very careful how he times this because he's still got the Lopez Cooper Fidek battle. He'll filter out into that as well. But he's got to make sure he comes out in front of Capit. That could mean he ends up side by side with Fidek into turn one.
Yeah, needs to find himself, you know, if he can get close, he doesn't want to be close into turn one unless he can get the inside. Fidek though wants past Cooper, and if he can get past Cooper before that, it means he's going to be fighting with a Hawkeye instead of an Oldsgen. And while Fidek's looking, he's looking, isn't he? He tries to give it a little bit of a look there, but it's not quite going to work out for him out of 10. Into 11 and 12 is maybe not going to be an overtaking opportunity either, but maybe he just wants to line it up on the back straight. We have a four-way battle here that's all going to culminate on this back straight, I feel.
Well, Ben Willis is into the pits. We're going to see how this battle develops because we've got Cooper, Fidek, Capit, Gaia. And they're tucked up behind Fran Lopez, don't forget. This is going to be a four-way scrap down the back straight. I'm watching for Gergo Baldi as he goes into the pits with one eye on that as well. But we've also got this four-way scrap. Lopez moves across. Fidek is on the back of Cooper. Fidek ducks back out the outside. Capit's going to go with him for company. They're both going to get past Cooper unless Cooper can bandside back down the inside. Brilliant cover from Cooper. And Fidek goes wide. Capit picks up the pieces.
Well, Alex Cooper gave the bare minimum required of space there, did not give an inch to the Chapman. He's going to dive into the pits, as is Lopez. And Cooper's always
Cooper's done a shot! Cooper's done a Hamilton! Unbelievable!
He has done a Hamilton. He's gone over. He's run into the ground. It hasn't actually cost him much time, but it's enough to get Gaia a little bit closer. And well, Gaxella, Fidek, Capit are all going to take advantage of that. But now it's become a two-way battle. He was so desperate to catch up to Lopez there, was Alex Cooper, that he has replicated Lewis Hamilton in one.
Well, Cooper gets out of the pits behind Lopez and in front of Gaia. That was a proper pressure cooker, wasn't it? And Lopez, look, he rejoins behind Maciej Mlinek. So Mlinek is up to 8th position. Lopez goes for the inside of Mlinek. That's brave on his first outlap on these tyres. Mlinek is not letting him go. Mlinek holds the inside line. Brilliant battling here at Shanghai. And it's only just getting started because Lopez is coming back at him.
Well, he's very much a do or die man, isn't he, Fran Lopez? We know how aggressive he can be in racing scenarios, and that can pay dividends for him. He takes chances. Mlinek gets a bit wiggly, and through goes Fran again. But he himself has been compromised on the exit there. And now Maciej Mlinek is going to have a look down, not into this turn, but he must know if he's struggling as much as he is, then Fran might have problems.
Boom! What a move from Fran Lopez round the outside to move up into 8th position. Now, we've got to get ourselves back into Real Street here because we've got Lee Morris chasing down Bart DeVos trying to gain some time. But watch the pits. Gergo Baldi does not pit. Now, that is interesting. Rudy Van Buren is driving on. So is Gergo Baldi. So is Bart DeVos, I think. Is he pitting? No, he's not. So Lee Morris, what's he going to do? He pits. Okay, so Morris can't keep these tyres running any longer. But Van Buren, Baldi and De Vos can. That's interesting.
Maybe he just wants to be on fresher rubber because, well, they'll have more of an idea of how much standing water's on track than we do. But maybe, you know, there's obviously the chance that if it is getting drier, they can sort of sequence the pit stops if they're learning about the tyre wear, so that it'll be bang on cue when it gets dry enough to go to intermediates or slicks. They'll be bang on cue to go straight onto those. But, of course, it could just be that they're running out of tyre life.
Well, you know who the winner in all of this is. It's David Feidek. He's come up to 5th position, now just a couple of seconds behind Risto Capit. This is not going to go very well indeed for Lopez and Cooper if they have lost the ground. They have. They've lost about 4 corners worth of ground. They got about 10 seconds on Feidek. Well, let's not forget Feidek needs to pit again, but he could be the beneficiary of this because Gasgela behind him is what, 5 seconds down the road. Morris is a further, I would say, 7 seconds, well, 6 seconds down the road. So, in fact, Feidek now having clean air, not having to deal with Fran Lopez or Alex Cooper, he might be able to leapfrog them both in this circulation of the pits.
He might be able to, and that would be really beneficial if he could, in terms of overall time he gained in the race. And, well, time gained in the race can also be made up through battles, and, well, Matty Rynek will be happy that he's catching Alex Cooper, because we know he can probably take those tyres to lap 20. And the fact that he's so close to Cooper, and Cooper's not got nearly as much tyre life in him, is going to please him.
Well, where's Van Buren on track? He's coming into the pits. Okay, so Van Buren is making his pit stop. He's got 26 seconds on his teammate, Risto Capit. So that is fair enough. He's made these tyres last 7 laps each, basically. Well, make it 8 this last run. He's looked after the tyres very well on this last stint. Diego Baldi's in the pits as well. So watch for where Baldi gets out in relation to Capit. I think Risto Capit's actually going to beat him again. I did think for a moment that Baldi was going to leapfrog him, but no, Risto Capit's had some clean air thanks to getting past that battle. He's going to be able to jump them all as De Vos comes in, Feidek comes in, Rudy Van Buren exits the pits in the lead. Risto Capit up to 2nd. Job done for Vodbull for the moment.
Yep, job done. Capit into 2nd, Baldi 3rd, De Vos is pitted, he's in 4th. Gagzala, though, going to provide some competition. I think Gagzala's gone through, he has done. And that's going to be position lost Feidek in as well, so it must be pit time for everyone but Mlynek.
Well, Emmanuel Gasgela has not pitted for the 2nd time, hence why he's up in 4th position. Bart De Vos is now 5th in front of Lee Morris. Fran Lopez 7th. Feidek is not out in front of Lopez and Cooper. He drops to 9th. Now, I thought he was going to get the benefit of those two battling away, but in fact, Feidek has not been able to make advantage of that. He is still there behind Lopez and Cooper. This is going to be another ding-dong fight between Cooper and Feidek then.
It is, and it seems to be a common theme in this race. Feidek and Cooper, these two are going to go at it once more. And, of course, Cooper coming off the back of that race win in Sochi is going to want another good result here in China. But it's not going to be easy if the reigning champion has anything to say about it.
Well, Rudy Van Buren is coming up to lap Ben Willis for the first time. That shows you the pace difference between the Vodbull driver and Ben Willis in the Green Stripes racing machine. Still only 2 retirements from Madcape and Kerno, respectively. Mitchell de Jong and Bent Zibanek. But as things stand at the moment, it looks as though it's going to be a Vodbull 1-2. Risto Capit is only 3 seconds down the road. You can see them on the back straight. Van Buren and Capit, not much between them, although only 4 seconds back is Gergo Baldi. But I did think the Hungarian would be closer to Risto Capit than that after the pit stops. It was touch and go as to whether Capit would beat Baldi out. But he's been able to pull out 4 seconds between his opposition when they've been separated in the different cycles of the pits. That just shows you how quick the Vodbull is on new tyres.
Yep, and that's the pace advantage, what they're gaining at the moment. They are just so quick on these new rubber. And when they do put a new set of tyres on, that's just pace for them. And
Gasgela, sorry. Gasgela's done the Lewis Hamilton thing again as well. So Gasgela into the pits and overshoots and almost gets stuck. He almost really does a Hamilton. He manages to get the car stopped and bring it back onto the circuit, but that just shows you how weak the tyres are at the end of their phase. It's really difficult to gain any grip at all as Gasgela brings the car to a stop. That was another near miss at the entry to the pit lane.
It's becoming a very easy thing to do, isn't it? And McNaughton's just done the same. Adrian McNaughton's just overshot as well. We may as well call it doing it. Alex Cooper, he set a precedent.
That's absolutely incredible. Well, clearly, people think they're so much like Lewis Hamilton, they want to emulate him. But guys, try winning a race. Try not binning it into a gravel trap. That's not the way to emulate your hero. But Rudy Van Buren and Risto Capit continuing their run out front. Jason Muscat is into the pits as well. Just trying to see if anybody else is down there too. No, Varley's gone through. Jordan's gone through. Jacobs is soon to approach the pits, being caught by the Swede Tobias Olsson. He's having an absolute nightmare of a race now, isn't he, Tobias? He was with his teammate in the early stages, Alex Cooper. But Tobias Olsson is now having a real back against the wall type motor race here as he tries to work his way through. He's only at 21st at the moment.
Yeah, only 21st place for Olsen, and that's not going to help him any means or by any way. It's really not going to be very good for him, and especially when you consider that is a fresh engine in that number 3 car. He's not really putting it to good use here.
We counted our chickens before we hatched in Vodbull's terms. The gap between Capit and Baldi was 4 seconds on the last lap. It's down to 2.4. Gergo Baldi is pushing on. He wants second position and he senses he can do it. Don't forget, his rubber is what? 3 laps newer than Risto Capit's. So actually, he now has the upper hand. This is going to be a cat and mouse game between the two of these guys for the remainder of the race. And the gap comes down again to just 2 seconds. Gergo Baldi is on it. Now, if he can get past Risto Capit before they have to pit again, this certainly puts the Hungarian in a better shot at second position. But this is all going to come down to how Vodbull makes use of their tyres in the opening 3 to 4 laps of the stint, because they can't afford to kill them too much. By my math, Risto Capit, if they're on the same compound, he'll be in again very shortly. So surely Baldi needs to get onto the back of Capit once more to put him under pressure and really step up the attack.
Well, they do see rain as the great equaliser, and it's proving itself to be in this case, because Baldi not giving any quarter to Capit, both on the wet tyres, both wanting to get past each other, and in Capit's case, it's his so far, but Baldi's just slicing through the time like a block of cheese perhaps, but he's just cutting away at that time, and he's making it look easy.
This is a great run, a really great performance so far from Gergo Baldi to slice that gap down to a second between himself and Risto Capit now. Pushing on again. Baldi really seems to have hit a good groove now. If I'm Risto Capit, again, we're on lap 18. We've only made these compounds of tyres last 6 laps. Do not give Baldi the satisfaction of getting through. You need to keep the psychological upper hand here. You need to pit first, because if you can gain that 4 seconds again at every cycle until the circuit dries up, then you need to take advantage of it. But Baldi, look, he's gaining ground visually down the back straight. Risto, if I'm you, I'm boxing now, mate.
Yes, maybe the scrolls of history will show that Risto pitted first, much like Han Solo in the terms of going for it before anyone else can. But, well, Gergo Baldi, well, he's not pitted, is he, Risto? So maybe it'd be Gergo pitted first.
Potentially. Well, now they're second-guessing each other. The gap comes down to half a second. I can't take my eyes off this battle at the moment, and there's probably quite a few more choice battles around the circuit as well. But this is the big one, Capit versus Baldi. This is to see whether Vodbull can really be broken down in a race strategy battle. We knew that they had the potential to be in Sochi. The field was a lot closer. And look, last time out, the gap was sized down from a minute at the finish to, well, it would have been half a minute if Rudy Van Buren's disconnection hadn't happened. But now there's only, 7 seconds between the two cars, and Gergo Baldi is very much a contender for the victory, never mind second place, still putting Risto Capit under pressure. The gap comes down to 0.3 of a second.
He is sticking it on really high here, like stacking burgers on a burger bun. He's really he's gunning for Capit here. He wants that second place, Hins into the pits now, but Baldi wants this second place because he knows if he can just pass the Estonian, he will have as much chance of a win as anybody else, because, well, maybe once he gets to clear air, he'll be able to challenge Van Buren. And don't forget, if this dries out, it changes the race completely.
It really does, because everybody, of course, has started this race with a wet setup. They've got to try and cope with it. Baldi's going to make a move into the final hairpin. Watch. He's right on the back of Risto Capit. Now watch. This is going to be a really difficult move for him to pull off, because he's not going to have a massive amount of grip. He's going to have the spray to deal with. That adverse weather is going to make things tricky for him to pile his way through, but he's got the speed. Risto is not providing much resistance. He can't afford to at this stage. Baldi's going to get through to second position. Now he's got to get the car stopped. Risto can brake later because he's on the wide line, but Gergo Baldi gets through, and if I'm Risto Capit, I've got to pit now. You can't afford to stay out there longer than you have to.
He's trying to get himself to the outside of the corner there because he is pitting. He's taking your advice, Jake. Evidently, can they hear us? I don't think they can, but if they could hear us, he's taking your advice.
Yeah, he needs to. Once you've had that move from Gergo Baldi, you can't really afford to sit in his wake for too long. You need to shake it up a bit. You need to try something else. And clearly, these tyres are not lasting long enough to be frugal. You've just got to get a fresh set of boots on. And we know how quick the VOD Bull is on those first couple of outlaps. If he can get himself into some clean air, which will be tricky. Lopez and Cooper are coming down the straight. Cooper having got past David Fidek. Fidek had a bit of a mistake on that lap by the look of it. Where's Capit coming out? Oh, no, he's done it in front of Fran Lopez. That's good. That puts Capit back in contention for second place again.
It does. Being in 5th rather than 6th is a good thing. And Cooper in 7th, well, he won't be best pleased because he's got David Fidek on the gearbox of his Hawkeye. And, well, he's got to be starting to worry now because that is a seriously competitive David Fidek, giving him some serious competition for P7. Cooper gets all squiggly out the exit of that turn. Is this going to be a Fidek-izer into this turn? Perhaps so. Down the inside. Thank you very much. He's got the brake, and can he get the traction out of it? Well, I don't even know why I asked that question. Of course he has.
That's the champion we know and love, David Fidek in racing mode, and he moves up into 7th position past Cooper. Cooper very nearly losing it on the exit of the corner. It's like a different motor race to what we saw 2 weeks ago. Cooper desperately trying to get the grip from the tyres, but now he's already had one Norwegian car swarming around all over him. Now he's going to have to deal with the German Florian Gaia all underneath him. Emmanuel Gasjela, the Romanian, and Maciej Minek are still not too far away. And this is kind of the first half of the grid because those guys are separated by 47 seconds. Then you've got to add another half minute before you get to the B race, as it were. Matt Varley in the head of that one with Dennis Jordan in the chase. Adrian McNaughton, Thomas Hinds, Redshaw, Muscat, Francic, Olsen, Chiranku, Jacobs and Willis. I'm surprised, actually, that we've still got 22 cars of the 24 that started running in these conditions. It's absolutely appalling out there.
It is an Alex Cooper's experience on the first time. He got too wide out to the long right, and Gaia got through before they even got to the front back at the start of the straight. He won't be able to go through, and as a result of that, another Nordstein's just gone through. You seeing things, Alex? Yes, you are, mate. It was about a minute ago. As both now come into the
situation for Alex Cooper. They've got to pit. Alex Cooper has got to pit at this point. Lopez is in. Gaia is in, I believe. Cooper is in as well. Is that Florian Gaia in the pits? Yes, it is. So Lopez, Gaia, Cooper, all in together. So Lopez is actually going to consolidate his position by being the first one of those three. And oh, that was close. Lopez exiting the pits as Gaia was coming to a stop. That was very nearly a nasty one indeed. Yeah, Gaia's going to get out of the pits. Oh, just in front of Cooper. That's crucial.
It is. He's landed himself in front of Cooper, and he has to deal with his case of deja vu for a minute longer until he can get past Gaia.
So Varley in the pits as well. But out in front, it's still Rudy Van Buren who leads the way. Gergo Baldi has been able to make those tyres last a little bit longer than Risto Capit. But interestingly, Capit, well, what's the gap? 30 seconds. So he's lost to his teammate Rudy Van Buren. He's lost about 4 seconds in total in the last set of tyres that he had, because before then, when he came out of the pits, he was about 26 seconds back when Rudy Van Buren pitted. Now he's half a minute. So, well, Van Buren doesn't pit yet. So how on earth is this guy just so metronomic around this place in these conditions? He really does want some recompense for Sochi, doesn't he?
He's making a statement. He would have won that were it not for the graphical problems he would have argued, and lots of other people would have argued too. And he's shown that today. He's shown when things go my way, nobody can touch us.
Well, DeVos in third. Morris is still fourth. Is he going to pit? Yes, he does. So Lee Morris cannot make the tyres last as long as Bart DeVos. Clearly, this time Morris doesn't choose to be one of the Hamiltoners, but he almost does. One wheel on the white paint. Very close indeed, but Morris gets the car stopped. Now, Risto Capit, his lap times suggest to me, Risto Capit, that he's not doing too bad. He's just done a 1:53.2. That is his personal best and the fastest lap of the race, I should point out. So Capit in the 1:53s, his teammate in the 1:54s. So Rudy Van Buren, not quite on the same pace as his teammate. That is the difference that fresh rubber can give you. It's a second per lap.
Fidek and Morris have just put some new rubber on. They've both pitted, and Lopez is going to get past Fidek on the exit of the pits there. Will Gaia get past Fidek? No, he won't be. He'll come out pretty close to his teammates. So Nordstein's 9th and 10th, possibly maybe going to improve if Lopez has to make a pit stop. But good that Lopez, for him at least, got through back into 8th place. And Dennis Jordan now in, well, Lopez's teammate car is coming into the pits from P15. So Muscat should inherit the points position for now, at least, as Jordan does indeed pull up to his pit box.
There's a glimmer of hope for Gergo Baldi. I've just been looking at the lap times. That last time through, Gergo Baldi was 0.3 of a second quicker than the race leader, Rudy Van Buren, in the first sector alone. Okay, Baldi made a mistake on the second split and then dropped back a little way, but he's still relatively faster than Van Buren. Now, Van Buren's in the pits. If I'm Baldi, I am going to carry on. And he does. He carries on. Now, this is an interesting one because Baldi is not yet going to close up enough on Van Buren to take the lead of the race overall. Van Buren is in the pits. He puts fresh boots on. But what's going to make the difference here is if Bart de Vos carries on, and he does. Now, Van Buren is going to have a little bit of a tussle. Is he with Bart de Vos, or is he... No, he's going to beat him out, so that's not a problem. I thought he might just have a bit of an issue with Bart de Vos there, but no, he doesn't. But Baldi clearly seems to be able to get a little bit more life out of these tyres, and if his lap times are still good enough, and there's no reason why he can't challenge. He's done a 29.8 in the first split. That is faster than Van Buren has managed in the last 3 laps straight. Meanwhile, in the second split, the fastest man on the track is Lee Morris on a 34.7.
Well, dearie me, we have another join the Hamilton Club. Matty Mlydek, our resident tyre saver, is in from P9 after a little excursion on the gravel. But he's gone and pitted. I expected he was going to come in soon, and he has. Gaia will go through, and I assume Cooper will get back into the top 10 as well. But Mlydek in the long run is saving time here. And, well, time is something that Emmanuel Gagzella does not currently have because he's got a Lee Morris left, right, and centre on him. As he's going down for this turn here, Morris is going to do a Feidick. He's just going to dive down the inside. And that is, thank you very much. Have a nice day from Morris to Gagzella. And he is through into the top 5.
Beautiful move from Lee Morris. That is a man who knows how to get the job done, and that is the man who is still the fastest out there. He's just done the fastest sector of the race in Sector 1. 29.3 from Lee Morris. That's a full half second quicker than Baldi is going out in front. But interestingly, now we've got Van Buren on a new set of boots as well. He's just gone fastest in the second sector. So Baldi does not actually have much to hold to Van Buren because he's gone a second quicker in the middle sector. Now here comes Baldi into the pits. Van Buren is on a quick lap. This may end up... Well, no, it's still his out lap, isn't it, Van Buren? So he's not going to get the fastest lap this time. But certainly some strong runs in the second sector. That's going to neutralise the battle. Anything Baldi would have made up on Van Buren, the Dutchman has now just completely shattered.
He acted too quickly in terms of pace. He got the pace up too soon for him to do anything. DeVos in as well. So Capit will go up in a second, I believe. And while Baldi just coming out now, Capit is going to go through. Status quo resumes itself once more. It's a Bull 1-2. And DeVos is going to lose some time to Morris. Maybe there'll be a battle between those two. And Lopez has gone sky high.
Oh, no, Lopez. That's a big one.
And he's hit Nordstein as well in the process.
I see Cooper trying to get back on the road as well. That is absolutely appalling. Lopez rejoins the circuit while Cooper is coming through. That knocks Cooper's front nose off. He is going to be absolutely furious at that, and he's got every reason to be.
Oh, David Feidick went into the back of him. It seemed like Lopez just slowed for no apparent reason. He lost a ton of speed. Maybe connection problems, and Feidick went in. Cooper obviously apparently evolved as well by the sounds of it. And, well, Fran Lopez's car turned into a rocket for a minute. They're trying to launch the Adonis Space program, possibly. But he's got the good old Formula Ford going on. No ailerons. Obviously, Cooper involved as well. Hayes managed to probably take the no front wing for him. And it's going to be all changed there as Norton jumps up into 11th.
Well, Cooper's in. Feidick exits the pits as well. Cooper, look now, interestingly, Cooper just weaves as he goes down the pit lane. He's trying to figure out how much damage has actually been done to that car because he wouldn't necessarily know until he's got full aero back on the car. He's just weaving from side to side. Have I got suspension damage in that? Because that was a mighty knock that Lopez gave him there. Lopez finally rejoins the circuit, but he's in 19th position now. It's game over, effectively, for Feidick, for Cooper and for Lopez. They're all three of them going to be fighting a losing battle to recover, but that just shows you one blink and that's all it takes. But what I was going to say before that all kicked off is that Baldi is actually closer to Capit than he was at the last rotation of pit stops, and Baldi is still going quicker than Capit. Capit just did a 35.6 in the second split. 0.8 of a second quicker was Baldi. Now Capit comes across the line on a 49.2. Well, Baldi on a 49.4. So actually, they're about even again. But this is going to cook up into a nice little battle again, with Baldi clearly stronger in the middle sector.
I'm just saying that apparently Lopez had a screen freeze, and that's what caused him to slow down and go into fight it. Nothing could happen there, but then on the rejoin, could have probably watched the rejoin into Cooper, I think, really. He must have known he was coming, really, to go straight on, I think. He must have, really might have just been better off waiting for Cooper to go through.
Well, this promotes, obviously, several drivers up. This puts Thomas Hinz into 8th position. He must think Christmas has come early in this one. He was in about 12th position at about half a minute off the leaders at one point. He's still that far back, but because everybody else has had difficulties, Thomas Hinz now finds himself in 8th place, just in front of Maciej Mlinek. Now that's interesting. I thought Mlinek would be in front of Hinz. Maybe he's had an issue somewhere we didn't see. Lewis Redshaw comes into the pits from 10th position, as does Adrian McNaughton. So that will promote Fidek up. But the difference is now Fidek, Cooper and Lopez are actually out of rotation now because they've all pitted for repairs. And obviously they will have put a new set of tyres on there to minimise the damage to their race. So those three are out of rotation. So when it dries out, if these three can time it right, well, these guys might have the last laugh after all. And Baldi's got Baldi side by side with Capit. Baldi and Capit side by side. Baldi's been catching Capit for ages. Now they're going to be in a drag race to the hairpin. Baldi up the inside line. Is he going to make the move on Risto Capit? Yes, he does. That's a significant moment in this motor race. And again, if I'm Risto Capit, I'm going to pit for new rubber now. I don't want to spend too long staring at Gergo Baldi. But no, he elects to continue. This is going to be Baldi's opportunity to pull away from the Estonian.
History does not repeat itself. The last time Capit got overtaken by Baldi, he came in straight away. And this time it's not happened. He's decided maybe I'm going to try and extend the life of these tyres a bit more. Will it pay off? Well, time will tell. But as far as Capit's concerned, he's got a job on to try and get past Gergo again now.
Well, Risto's got to wait for the track to dry out if that's going to happen sooner rather than later, because that's really where he's going to make the difference. We know that on the fresh rubber, the Vodbull is much stronger than any other car out there in the first 2 or 3 laps. They are much stronger, but I'm not entirely sure that's going to be enough to break the deadlock as Gashgela comes into the pits from 6th position. The Romanian doing a good job in this, a good solid run from Gashgela, staying out of trouble, which, as we've already seen, is ultimately most of the battle won in this race. Gaia has moved up to 6th position as a result of all of this melee. Maciej Mlinek and Thomas Hinz are having a great scrap down the main straight. Gashgela is going to come out into this if he's not careful. He gets out of the pits. He's got breathing space, but Maciej Mlinek and Thomas Hinz, this battle is really stepping up a gear.
Yeah, these two really on it at the moment. Hinz trying to defend from Mlinek, of course, and Maciej hounding him like Maciej's hounding him like a Maciej who wants the place. That's the only thing I can think of. And Hinz is not going to make it too difficult for him if he doesn't close the door, but he does eventually. He gets that door shut, and now Mlinek's going to have to look for a route down it. Oh,
here he goes!
Oh, well, that's not going well. He's overshot it, I think, and Hinz is going to get the... he tried to pull a Fidek, but it didn't work. But he's still in line. He can still go for it, but that's not really the move he wanted to be making.
He's through!
Anyway. Well, make the most of that scenario.
How has he done that? Maciej Mlinek goes banzai into the corner, locks himself up, overcooks it, allows the Australian Thomas Hinz back through, and then goes right, back on the throttle, back on the outside line, or sweep behind the left-hander, side by side, and gets the job done. That is a crazy move from Maciej Mlinek, but only Mlinek would be brave enough to get that move done. Now, back to the front. This is significant. Baldi is now within 10 seconds of Rudy Van Buren. Risto is a full 3 seconds back on Gergo Baldi. That is significant.
Yeah, he's dropped him like an anchor, really, hasn't he? Now he was behind him a couple of laps ago. Now he's nowhere. And Capit, well, he won't be happy about that at all because he's going to be losing time. He'll have to come back into the pits sooner or later, you'd imagine, and that's going to cost him more.
Van Buren and Baldi are level on time in terms of the first sector. They were both on a 29.7. I don't think Rudy Van Buren's got this race won yet. Yes, he's got the cushion of 10 seconds, but in the form that Gergo Baldi has got, by the time we go to dry tyres, watch out for the Hungarian. He may have a trick up his sleeve.
He might full well do. There might not be every single trick in the book except suspended yet from Gergo. Hinter's come into the pits from P10, and he'll be on to a new set of rubber. That much is for certain. And yeah, we'll see what he does, but going to be interesting to see how this battle progresses for him, because he's doing quite well on this comeback. I mean, others' misfortune has helped him, but sometimes that's how you win races.
Sorry, just watching the pit lane entry, and Daniel Taranku joins the Lewis Hamilton Sandtrap Club. He almost gets it stuck there, manages to get it going again. Gergo Baldi's teammate there, Daniel Taranku, managing to save his bacon at the last minute, but that, again, just goes to show how tough it is to keep these tyres going. Rudy Van Buren goes on again. 10.7 clear of Gergo Baldi. Baldi continues. He's not pitting either. This is interesting because Risto Capit is making these tyres last longer. In he comes. In comes Capit. Right, now Capit usually goes 2 laps shorter than Van Buren and Baldi, but he's dropped 4.6 seconds off the back of Gergo Baldi as Matt Varley joins him in the pit lane. They've lapped him. But this is quite interesting because Capit has lost a lot more time to Gergo Baldi than I ever thought he would.
Yeah, Morris and DeVos are going to go through, but that is a lot of time dropped to Baldi. Really needs to find it back somewhere, and you can argue without the 3 seconds that he's dropped, he would now be right on the back of those two. We've lost to Matt Varley from the race. He is unfortunately DNF'd, and I think he came into the pits and parked it. Maybe he just had some sort of terminal issue.
Well, his teammate is the only man behind him on times at the moment. Ben Willis, he will overtake him. Thomas Jacobs is out of the pits just in front as well. But this is the real story of the race, ladies and gentlemen. The Hungarian seems to be at home.
Yeah, McNaughton really is home at the moment, challenging Lopez. Lee Morris joins the Lewis Hamilton Sandtrap Club too. Another one to join the club there. But McNaughton, yeah, this is the first time we've really seen him have a go at somebody, especially somebody as good as Lopez, who's not obviously after that incident. But look how wide Lopez has gone. He's on the outside.
Oh.
That's where all the water is. It's going to compromise his exit, and now Muscat wants to go.
Thank you very much. Adrian McNaughton goes past Fran Lopez, but watch for Lopez as Florian Gaia pits in. I have a feeling Fran Lopez is going to try and throw this one up the inside. No, McNaughton's going to make him go the long way round. They're going to drag race for the braking zone. McNaughton's going to be careful. Oh, Lopez goes into the back of Adrian McNaughton. Has to get off the throttle. That was a close one. Lopez sliding around all over the place. He does not like following Adrian McNaughton.
He doesn't like it at all. You may as well call this your Lopez on ice, because that's how much grip he has. It really is the ragged edge of adhesion he's pushing it to at the moment. There's practically no grip on those tyres. And
there goes Muscat. Oh.
Just the amount he's gaining is proving it, Jake.
Yeah, Lopez has absolutely no grip. I wonder if there's more damage done to that car than meets the eye, because Muscat is sliding about all over the place trying to get through. But Lopez, he looks like he's blindfolded on roller skates at the moment. He slides about all over the place. Massive tank snappers as into the pits comes Rudy Van Buren. Now that's important because Van Buren, again, has gone shorter than Gergo Baldi on tyre life. That's for the second time in a row as well. Van Buren pits, rejoins ahead of Bart de Vos. So it is definitely a battle for the victory those two are having. Risto Capit has closed up on Bart de Vos in terms of lap times. Capit is nearly 2 seconds a lap quicker than Bart de Vos on that last lap. But interestingly, Van Buren blinks first in terms of pit stops. Gergo Baldi, well, what is the gap? Well, in the first sector, Baldi did a 29.8, which is quicker than Van Buren went on the last sector. So now Gergo Baldi ultimately needs to pit in this lap. He needs to keep this momentum going.
Yeah, Baldi, he took 1.5 seconds out of Van Buren on one of the laps, so if he's got the tyre life, then you'd argue he should stay out, but now he's got so much worn rubber, and Van Buren's on fresh wet. He's got to respond at this point, because he's going to lose too much time if he doesn't, you'd think, because he's not got the tyre life, and Van Buren will do. Feidigan as well.
Yeah, Feidigan in the pits. Lee Morris went off the circuit very briefly at turn 1, manages to get it back on the circuit without losing too much time, so it's not a headache that Lee Morris can avoid. But it's certainly not going to cost him a position now. Gergo Baldi's split times. This is what's going to make a big difference. Wow, Rudy Van Buren on fresh boots. Just did a 34.4 compared to Baldi on a 35.2. Gergo, pit in now. I'm not kidding, mate.
Van Buren, that in fact was a purple sector. No one has gone faster in sector 2 than Rudy Van Buren. And Gergo Baldi is not going to take advantage of that at all. Actually, he's going to stay out. He's thinking maybe he can do this, even though on paper it looks like Van Buren has got him absolutely pinned down here.
Yeah, this is the thing. We know how strong the VOD Bull is in the first couple of laps of tyre life. Then it dissipates and the pendulum swings back in the favour of the Valters automotive car of Gergo Baldi. He needed, for my money, he needed to make that advantage count. And the fact that he's gone one lap longer means that Van Buren is just going to reel him in again. And he's going to have to do all that hard work he did in the previous sector, in the previous on the previous set of tyres. He's going to have to do all that hard work all over again. I think he's missed a valuable chance to get one over on Van Buren there.
Perhaps so. Bart de Vos into the pits, so he's not one who's going to waste an opportunity. He comes straight into the pits there, gets onto a new shed of fresh wets, and, well, Morris is going to overtake him, of course, because he's about to pass him on the start-finish. But, yeah, that could be a race-critical error from Gergo Baldi, because he's going to lose. I mean, in that first sector alone, granted, he was only 3/10 down, but that's still 3/10 he's lost. Van Buren is just slicing and slicing and slicing like a person slicing some butter, and Van Buren really not really in a slippery situation at all. It's Baldi who's prone to slipping and sliding here.
Two more retirements to report, unfortunately. The second of the Green Stripes cars, Ben Willis, has finally given up the ghost, and Tobias Olsen as well in the second of the two cars for Mad Kate. That's a real shame. In the second of the two cars, I should say, for Hawkeye, as the other Hawkeye, Alex Cooper, comes into the pits for work. But unfortunately, his teammate has parked it, is out of the race. Now, I'm watching for Gergo Baldi because Van Buren was 3/10 quicker than him in the first sector, and then was 6/10 quicker than him in the second. Gergo, pit now. There you go. There you go. That just gave him another chance, but for me, that was a lap too late.
Perhaps so. He's going to have lost about a second to Van Buren, and while he's still going to be in this race, he's not going to be in it as well as he would have liked. He's going to be a second further back from Van Buren than perhaps he could have been, but Cappett's not going to be anywhere near touching distance of the Hungarian, and that's what's important at the moment. Capet is not probably going to get Baldi. As Baldi exits the pits now, Cappett's coming around the final turn.
Well, we're over half distance now. I'm trying to figure out when it is most likely that the track is going to start drying out, because we know that this is what is actually going to make the race victory critical, is which team has actually thought about the oncoming sunshine, which could happen towards the end of this race. But the thing is, it could still be wet all the way through to the end of the race, or at least it will stop. There's a potential it will stop raining, but the track will still be too wet to consider the switch. If that's the case, then it is just going to be a grudge match between Van Buren and Baldi as to who can keep their resolve. But if it does dry out, then this is all going to come down to what Vodbull and Wouters have done to preempt that. It's all going to come down to who has been smarter and played the long game.
Yeah, it could be that this race rains all the way at the end. I've got my little widget on the side of my screen here, which tells me what the weather is right now, and it is still a cloud.
Start, finish straight. Florian Gaia making the move on Matches Minek. Apologies there, Josh. It looked to me as though Gaia is definitely going to make a maneuver here. He gets caught out there as he closes right up behind Linek and almost goes into the back of him. So a nice little tasty battle going on as Minek again finds himself right up in the top 10.
And it's because of his strategy. He can make the tyres last. Redshaw in, though. Obviously, he can't make his current tyres last anymore. But yeah, Redshaw in the pits now for what is probably going to be about his fourth or fifth stop as he comes in, gets the tyres changed, still obviously on the wet tyres because it's still raining as of, oh, dearie me, my neck's gone off.
He has indeed, unfortunately, in the battle with Florian Gaia. It looked to me as though Gaia just got one over on him there, and Linek just lost composure for a second. Meanwhile, we've got Cooper fighting his way back through the field as he goes side by side with Adrian McNaughton. McNaughton is in all of the good battles today, isn't he? As Cooper again slices up the inside. Don't let him go, Adrian. Oh, that's close. And Adrian slides into the side of Cooper. They manage to bang wheels. Cooper gets through, but that was very close. Well, no, actually, McNaughton's going to try and come back at him. Go on, Adrian. Get in there, sunshine. And he's having a go at this. Cooper's still there to the inside. Running right around the outside, Adrian. Not enough grip. Cooper's going to get through, but if he holds it back to the inside, McNaughton can finish this off. No, Cooper drives around the outside, but that was a very gutsy fighting stance from Adrian McNaughton.
It's like nobody wants 11th place. They were going back and forward at each other enough times, but Jason Muscat's been letting him with a chance now. They've been battling each other, and suddenly there's a Maltese on the backs.
Right, I've been looking at the tyre stints of each of the drivers. Baldi has consistently done 8 laps, no more, no less, on every set of tyres he's been on. He's only ever made them go for 8 laps. Whereas Van Buren has actually read the situation and gone, do you know what? It might be faster to go 1 lap less. So he's done 8 laps on the first 2 stints, 7 laps on the latter 2 stints. Capit, well, he seems to be cottoning on to the Van Buren way of life. He started very quick. Oh, big moment.
Yeah, Muscat into McNaughton there. He's just clouted the back of him on the braking zone. I think he just must have misjudged his braking, did Muscat. He had the draft on McNaughton, went down for it, and then, into the back of McNaughton, both in the pits. And it was in the hairpin. He just didn't judge that McNaughton was not going to accelerate then. He went into the back of him. Nothing really could be done. Both in the pits now, possibly with damage or just to change tyres or do something that they're in there and they're going to do. But they're both in now, McNaughton and Muscat.
Right, now mathematically, I think, I'm just trying to figure out what the tyre life situation will do to the pit stop strategy. Baldi is now quicker than Van Buren again. He just did a 29.3 in the first sector, Gergo Baldi, to go half a second fast. He's just set the fastest lap of the race, actually, at 1:52.6. That was 2 seconds quicker than Van Buren on the last lap. I think Baldi's going to win this race, not just because he's quicker in this sector, but he's actually made his tyres last consistently for 8-lap rotations all the way through. This is a 56-lap race. You only have to do simple math to figure out that 8 divided by 56 is going to get you a clean set of pit stop strategies here. It's going to work beautifully in his favour. He's only going to need to make 6 pit stops if the weather stays the way it's gone. And they've done 4 of those already. So he seems to be on a good position here, Gergo Baldi. The problem is going to come from Rudy Van Buren because he has actually pitted 2 laps earlier over the last 2 rotations. Van Buren is running scared here. I think Gergo Baldi's got him on the ropes. He can have this.
Does he have him on the ropes? Indeed. I think intent has been stated by Baldi there. He's going for nothing but first place at the moment. And, well, Van Buren must know it. I mean, I'm watching these sector times and in that second sector, he was a 10th quicker. In the first sector, he was actually slower than Van Buren. But Baldi, having just set the fastest lap of the race, that I think is intent enough. As Gaxella and Leineck both out of the pits now, but Leineck in.
It is from Baldi because you've got to consider how long they're making these tyres work for. Rudy Van Buren seems to be mixing it up a little bit to try and second guess Baldi. Baldi is not budging. He is making these tyres last for 8 laps, whatever. Now what he needs to do is actually deal with this traffic pretty quickly. David Francic, good boy David, moves out of the way. Fran Lopez might not be so easy, actually. This could be a bit of an issue for Baldi. But the blue flags will wave. Fran Lopez will know that he's got to get out of the way. But he's sliding around all over the place in a straight line down the main straight. This is a real strange race for Fran Lopez again. And for the 3rd race in succession, again, he seems to have made too many mistakes to get himself into the top 6 as he moves aside now and lets Gergo Baldi through. That is that's important for Gergo because that means he's not going to lose too much time on the long run. But I think doing the basic mathematics here, if Baldi can make these tyres last 8 laps every time, then Baldi is going to need to make 1 less pit stop than Rudy Van Buren. I think Baldi could win this.
Perhaps so. Maybe on strategy, Baldi has got this one in the bag. But obviously we'll need to wait until the end of the race before we know for sure who's won this. But for now, at least we can start thinking that maybe there'll be a battle between Gergo and Rudy. If Gergo catches Rudy, it'll be testament enough, but he's got 8 seconds to go before he does that. But in Sector 1, well, he's not going to do it in Sector 1 at least, because he was a 10th down.
Well, if Gergo Baldi pits on lap 40, I think he's on for the win, because if he's making these tyres last the distance he is, he's got this, because he's catching Van Buren. They're out of sequence of each other, because Van Buren has made his tyres last 2 laps less overall, and Baldi is still catching him when he's got clear track in front of him. This is up to Van Buren now, because he's been on those tyres for 5 laps. Baldi's only been on those for 3. So if I'm right, and he's done his strategy consistently, that he just needs to make those tyres last for 8 laps each time, he probably won't even need to pass Rudy Van Buren on the track. I think the Vodball's going to need to make 1 more pit stop.
Perhaps so, and if Baldi can just match his pace, that's all he really needs to do, and he's matching him equal pretty much in sectors 1 and 2. That's all he's got to do in the long game, to be honest, because if he's going to do 1 less pit stop, that's at least 10-15 seconds that he's not going to have, and he's 8 seconds behind Van Buren as it stands.
Well, let's see what the sector times are like. Yeah, 0.3 of a second made up in the final sector from Gergo Baldi. The gap comes down to 7.8 seconds. The Hungarian is staking a claim for a victory here. We know the VOD Bull is strong. We know it's quick as Risto Capit comes in. Now, this is an important pit stop because obviously we know that Capit has gone... Right, how many laps did he do? He did 8. So Risto Capit did 8 laps on that set of tyres. I wonder if he's now the guinea pig for Rudy Van Buren to see if he can make his tyres go any further. Because at the start, Van Buren was on 8-lap rotations. It's gone to 7 as Lee Morris comes into the pits as well in 5th position. He should rejoin in 5th ahead of Florian Gaia. But Rudy Van Buren, this is a critical race position for him to be in. He's leading, but he's losing time to Baldi every single stint now. Risto Capit might be able to get enough information from his tyres running around in 3rd or 4th to give Van Buren the chance to go for the victory. But this is really, really tight. I think Vodbull are very much going to be pushed into a situation they don't want to be in.
Yeah, it's looking that way. Capit at the moment just not really able to take the fight. I mean, DeVos is not far ahead, so he could get past in that sense. But really, it's they didn't want to be fighting with anyone this race, and it may be if they've got this strategy wrong, that Baldi on strategy alone is going to force them into a fight.
Well, the thing is, Vodbull haven't called this strategy wrong. I wouldn't say they've called it wrong because you only have to look at the fact that these two cars are, you know, both their cars are in the top 4. No other team's cars are in the top 4. They haven't got the strategy wrong. It just looks as if they've been outfoxed. I don't think they were expecting Valters Automotive to be as strong over a race distance. Now, qualifying, it's no surprise at all to see Gergo Baldi going for the pole position. But Valters seemingly have done their homework for the first 2 rounds and realised that actually Vodbull can be beaten. It's in their complacency almost that they're vulnerable. They've been very smart about this. They've just decided, you know what, let's go for consistency. If we can make these wet tyres last for 8 laps at a time, we only need to make 6 pit stops to get to 56 laps in the race. And I think that's where it's going to happen. We need to watch for Baldi pitting on lap 40. In terms of Van Buren, he's made these tyres last 7 laps every single stint for the last 3 stints. He's on his 8th lap. I would not be surprised to see Van Buren pitting this lap. And Baldi, if I'm right, can make those tyres last till lap 40. He can overtake Van Buren in this phase of the race.
He could, yes. This might be the phase for Baldi, indeed, if he gets this right. As Lopez
sorry, Josh. Lopez is out. Lopez is out. That's not necessarily a surprise as such, but again, lots of speed, lots of excitement, but there doesn't seem to be enough consistency over the course of a race distance to get him to the finish line. It's a shame, once again, to see Lopez out.
Yeah, it is a shame to see him out, and obviously not really what he wanted. I'm just looking at the skies, actually, Jake. The clouds are moving further and further away from the circuit. I know there's still a fair few about, but they are starting to move over. The little widget on my right says that there is still clouds with rain falling out of them, but if that ever changes to that just being clouds, we'll know there's no rain.
Well, it's running out of time for that weather to change, really, for Rudy Van Buren. I have a feeling he's going to need to pit on this lap because he's got 20 laps or 19 laps to go at the end of this one. But this is the longest he'll have made these tyres go. Does he pit in? No! Rudy Van Buren is trying to stretch these tyres as far as they can go. He's going into his 9th lap on this set of tyres, which nobody has done other than, I think, Florian Gaia and Bart de Vos. Nobody else has been able to make these tyres last. No, Emmanuel Gasgella has made them last 9 laps. Certainly nobody in the top 6, other than Bart de Vos and Florian Gaia, has been able to make these tyres last for 9 laps. Rudy Van Buren taking a gamble and rolling the dice.
I don't think it's paid off. He just lost 1.4 seconds to Baldi. 6.036 behind. There is a Hungarian on the loose, and Rudy Van Buren has got to watch himself.
Rudy Van Buren's banking on it drying out, isn't he? He's banking on the fact that it'll dry out. If I can just make these tyres last a little bit longer, maybe if I only need to pit for 1 more, stretch it out a little bit further, when it dries out, I could go onto the soft tyres and run away from Baldi. That's what he's hoping for. I'm not so sure he's going to get that opportunity because Baldi has just sliced the gap again. 5.5 seconds is now the gap. Van Buren is running scared right now.
It's not going well for RVB anymore. He's got serious in terms of Baldi. He's got real worries at the moment because There is indeed a Hungarian about, and he's chasing him down. Although if we're talking about people who are on pace, look at Lee Morris. He set a purple sector 2 last lap. Now he set a purple sector 1 this lap. I know he's 54 seconds down, but he's still putting him a fight.
Yeah, Morris is doing a cracking job as Gaia and Fiduk are both in together. Now that is interesting because Gaia and Fiduk are going to really be in the pits at the same time. Now, well, that is surely a tactical error because Fiduk, yeah, look, Fiduk is having to queue up behind Gaia in the pits. Now, surely, well, they can't have meant to do that because Fiduk is trying to recover. Well, maybe they thought that was actually the quickest way to go about it. But look at the leaders. Van Buren is there. And Baldi is on the same stretch of road. Van Buren pits. See, that's the furthest he can make these tyres go. Baldi is going to take the lead. And I think this time he might keep it.
Perhaps so, but we know how quick Van Buren is on these new wet tyres. And if Baldi does not gain enough time, then he will still be behind at the pit stops. But this one is going to be the closest one. Van Buren comes in, gets new wet. Baldi's going to lead by a healthy margin, but he's got to keep this pace up. Otherwise, Van Buren is just going to undo all his hard work.
Well, it's difficult because Van Buren cannot actually afford to push it too hard on these tyres in the early stage because he's still a little bit too short to avoid that extra pit stop if it stays wet. So Van Buren cannot actually afford to push the car too hard because otherwise he's definitely going to need that extra pit stop. He's definitely going to lose it to Baldi. So he actually needs to be careful how hard he pushes it on this outlap. The only way he can beat Baldi in this rotation is if he actually looks after the tyres a little bit. He will want to push like crazy to try and get the gap up. But that will actually exacerbate the tyres and make him slower at the end of this stint. He needs to be very careful how he plays this.
He does, yeah. He really needs to take care here and, well, exercise the best of caution possible. But, yeah, Van Buren, by the looks of it, even though he's going to be second, he's going to be close to Lee Morris in the Drivers' Championship at this rate because Morris, just having done so well in the races so far, and Van Buren having that problem with Sochi, even from second, he's going to struggle with Morris in fourth.
No, Van Buren's throwing caution to the winds. He's going for it. He's done a 34.6 compared to Baldi on a 35.7. That's good in the short term, but I think in the long term, this could hurt the VOD Bull. I think he's actually going to lose more time because he can't afford to run these tyres down to an 8 or 9 lap stint again because he's going to need one more pit stop than Baldi. There's just no two ways about it. Baldi's pitting. Baldi's pitting early.
He's coming
One lap early for Baldi.
Maybe he's anticipating it drying out as well. Maybe he's trying to get in now. So I don't understand this actually, but this is the strategy here. But Van Buren should take the lead back as a result because he's not really gained any time. And Rudy Van Buren, why is he just going to go straight back ahead? Why don't you?
That is a shock. That is a shock. I thought Gergo Baldi was going to stay on this strategy, keep the tyres lasting. Well, maybe he's preempting the fact that Van Buren is actually going to be vulnerable in the traffic. And they've said, you know what? Pit now. Because there's only going to be about 5 seconds between you. You may as well push Rudy into the corner because Gergo has obviously done 8-lap stints all the way through. If he can do a 9-lap stint now, he knows that he's still got the upper hand over Van Buren. So maybe they're just trying to be a little bit cautious. Either that or they're just throwing smoke screens at VOD Bull. Don't let them know what we're doing.
It could just be a massive diversion indeed, but he has beaten me with that one. I thought I knew what he was doing, and I don't know what he's doing anymore. So
well, the gap is only 6.4, so, you know, Baldi's still very much in contention. This is all going to come down to the second sector. Baldi is trying to eradicate the advantage that the VOD Bull has on fresh boots. So Van Buren comes through at the end of the second sector. He's dealt with Dennis Jordan, I think. Yes, he has just managed to deal with it. Now, what was his sector time? A 35.2. Now, what was Gergo Baldi's sector time? This is going to be crucial. A 34.7. A 34.7 from Gergo Baldi. It's still very much a Walters Automotive victory on the horizon.
Well, that sector is going to be decisive, I think. Personal best from Baldi. And, well, not the fastest of the race, but he knows that he's going to have the upper hand here. But he's going to get past the Woods car here, which he's going to do. But then he's got another to deal with just ahead. But Baldi, well, yeah, the bit of a close one there. But Baldi, he just needs to keep these sector times up. And he is going to be right within a shout of catching Van Buren on his own strategy sort of thing. He's going to be quicker than Van Buren on fresh rubber, which
he
is
was so lucky. He was so lucky that Redshaw managed to get the car stopped in time, because there was a very nasty scare there. Redshaw almost managed to lock up. Totally not his fault. It's wet conditions. What do you do? But Redshaw very nearly went straight into the back of Gergo Baldi, and as a result of that, I think, Baldi has still got the gap down. Oh, big spin. That was very nearly the race ending right there.
That was the Storm car there. I think McNaughton possibly, rather than Gagzala.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, McNaughton missed him by millimetres, but luckily Baldi escapes. He'll be thanking his lucky stars after that one, especially considering he's just trying to gain his hardest on Van Buren, although Rudy is just dialed in a faster first sector.
Redshaw's missing his front wing as well, so I think Redshaw got caught up in that with Adrian McNaughton. What a shame, because in this race, McNaughton has been an absolute firecracker. He's been absolutely sensational to watch in this one. But McNaughton, he's pulling off. McNaughton pulling off the circuit. Definitely something wrong with the car. He gets it back on again behind Daniel Sharanku. I think McNaughton's bringing this car back to the pits. It could be game over. What a shame.
Yeah, it's just not. Oh, that one spin seems to have done it for him, really. I mean, might just be trying to see if the tyres may have hit something. Something might be wrong with that Storm. We'll have to see if we can find out. But what a shame from what a good race from McNaughton. And it is a shame to see him go, obviously. But to get back to this battle between Van Buren and Baldi, again, Rudy only just quicker. This is the thing. Baldi can match him on the wearing down tyres front as Hin's in.
Yeah, Hinz is in, and that was crucial because he was being caught by Alex Cooper. So Cooper has moved himself back into 10th position. The pressure off Hinz for a moment. But Van Buren versus Baldi. Oh, Van Buren really under pressure as he comes out of the final corner. The back end steps out big time. He knows that this is not going to be an easy race to win. And if he does it, he's going to have to drive out of his skin. Gergo Baldi again takes a massive chunk out of him in that lap overall. Well, no, actually, Van Buren was pushing harder to try and beat him. The third sector was the only one of that last lap that he wasn't faster, but the gap is still there at 5 seconds. Van Buren is throwing everything he's got at this race. He is desperate to win it.
Yep, he's just throwing as many resources as he can in that Vodball car, resources being sheer talent. But Baldi, in terms of his strategy, it just seems to be the more hot commodity at the moment because, well, as you say, Vodball haven't got the strategy wrong. Wouders have got it so right.
Well, Adrian McNaughton comes into the pits. He does not pull into the garage. The thing is, with the field now depleted down to 18... Oh, a spin in the pits! Redshaw spins it in the pit lane, trying to get the car up to speed. That means McNaughton surely is going to pass him on the exit of the pits.
Oh,
I've never seen that before.
He's done a Jerome D'Ambrosio there, hasn't he, Redshaw? He's spun it in the pit lane and, well, McNaughton is going to have a crack at him, and as a result, that is a weird mistake for someone as good as Redshaw to make as Gagzala comes in from P7, and that is one of the other Storm car in the pits now. Emmanuel Gagzala going to come in, and Violet goes through on him, and, well, he's going to come into the pits and get new tyres on, of course he is. But, yeah, Baldi not matching Van Buren anymore. Rudy's quicker.
See, I think that was Gergo Baldi trying to second-guess the Vodbull. He should have stayed out for that lap, in my opinion. He should have stayed out for that extra lap. We know that the tyres can do 8 laps, so why not let them do 8 laps? If they're 2 even, then the Vodbull is actually going to gain the upper hand. Gergo Baldi had a great chance there to put one over on Rudy Van Buren. And that's not to say that he can't get that advantage back, because we know that they still pitted differently to each other. Van Buren's been on that tyre 1 lap longer than Baldi, so he could gain the upper hand again. But I think Gergo should have stayed solid on the 8-lap rotation. Risto Capit back in the pits. Now, Capit is back in the pits. By my maths, this is his penultimate pit stop. They've got 14 laps to go. I don't see this track drying out in time. Risto Capit is going to need to make 1 more pit stop after this.
Yep, so that's going to be about 15 more seconds lost for Capit in terms of overall race time. And, well, it's obviously with the rain, it's looking to be a very long race here in China. There's 56 laps of about 2 minutes distance each, 152 if you're Rudy Van Buren on his absolute quickest. But it's going to be a long race, this.
Yeah, Morris is in the pits as well. And again, the fact that you've just mentioned that, Josh, about the fact that it is going to be a long race. it's longer than we're used to because, of course, the lap times in the dry will give us about a 1.5 hours, maybe 1 hour 40 at most. A 2-minute lap with 56 laps. We're going to be pushing to the 2-hour mark here, and this is going to tire out the drivers very much indeed. Now, this is where the deadlock is going to come between Van Buren and Baldi. Who can go the longest? Now, what's Rudy Van Buren like as an endurance racer compared to Gergo Baldi as an endurance racer? I think Baldi's got more experience of endurance, hasn't he?
Well, Risto Capet, one of the drivers, he actually does race in Endurance Series, I believe, Risto. So in terms of endurance, he should be on top of this. Van Buren and Baldi, not sure about their endurance credentials, but it's going to be a long race, about 1 hour and 45, I believe. So we are pushing a longer race here in Super League than we might normally be used to. Right. And so, oh, look at that. Capet, Purple Sector 2, he's not off either.
No, Capet hasn't given up yet either because, of course, both of the guys in front of him have got to make pit stops. And let's not take away from what Risto is doing here as a rookie in Super League this season. He's been absolutely incredible. He's only been about a tenth or even sometimes less than that off his teammate Rudy Van Buren in qualifying. In testing, he's as little as makes no difference level with his teammate. And in race trim, okay, he's made an extra pit stop and he's not quite been able to make the tyres last as long as his teammate. But at the end of the day, he's a rookie. He's going to learn all the ins and outs of how this car works as the season goes on. And it is a new car. So Risto does not have the 2 or 3 seasons prior to this that some of the other drivers around him have had to get used to the deficiencies. But now, Baldi has closed the gap again. Here we go. It's going to swing back in his favour. Baldi has dropped the gap to less than 5 seconds. Here we go again.
Yep, take number 544, perhaps it's happening again, ladies and gents. Van Buren versus Baldi. It seems to be the fight of this race. It is just the one that keeps coming back. And, well, Rudy Van Buren, well, he's trying to drop Gergo Baldi, but you may as well call him Gergo K because he just comes right back at him.
Well, watch as they come onto the back straight now because Van Buren comes through the hairpin. His previous, oh, they were... You're not going to believe this. They were level to the 10th of a second on their second split. Meanwhile, Morris does the fastest middle sector of all in that last lap. But look back. There is Baldi. Van Buren down the back straight. And there is Gergo Baldi. It is a sizable gap, but it's not that big anymore. So Van Buren is definitely in danger of losing a battle on the road. And that's going to give not only a massive breather of relief to Valtters Automotive, but to all the other 10 teams out of this equation. We will know if Baldi can get this done on Rudy Van Buren. We will know categorically that the 2017 Vodbull can be beaten.
Yeah, there'll be red lights flashing, alarm bells ringing, pressure in the cockpit of Van Buren at the moment. He'll be thinking that Baldi's just getting quicker and quicker, and he just took half a second out on that last lap alone, did Gergo. Gap down to 4.5, and there's a Hungarian who's hungry for this race win.
This is difficult for Van Buren now because we're on lap 45 now, lap 45, and he's got to stretch these tyres. Well, he made that last stretch. I know exactly what he's doing here. He's trying to stretch this set of tyres down to, oh, well, no, hang on. My calculations on Baldi were incorrect before. He did manage to make it 8 laps rotation each time, but this is still a big problem for Van Buren because if the calculations work the right way for Baldi, then he will pit in on lap 48 for Baldi. So Baldi on lap 48 is when we'll expect to see him. Rudy Van Buren, well, I expect him to pit in on lap 47, I think he'll go. Rudy Van Buren will probably try and make these tyres last to lap 47, but Baldi is taking massive chunks of time out of this car now. But Van Buren has a very narrow window of opportunity in which he can pit. It's got to be lap 47 or 48, and I'm not sure he can stretch the tyres far enough to go as far as that 48. So for me, the critical pit stop for Van Buren, he'll be in on lap 47. Baldi will be in on lap 48.
Yep, David Friday comes into the pits. Lewis Redshaw finds himself out of the race. Not just the pits because he came into the pits, but he's out of the race as Redshaw. He is DNF'd. I don't know whether he'll rejoin or that's just a disconnection or what, but something hasn't gone right for Redshaw, and we might just be about to lose another one. Gazella gets past Friday because he comes out of the pits though.
That was close. That was a great manoeuvre from Gasgella, but can Fidek get him back again? Fidek swarming all over the back. Gasgella not about to give him any room as Cooper and Linek are in the pits together. Linek will get out in front of Cooper, but Gasgella, that was a decisive manoeuvre, and that will have given Fidek a little bit of a wake-up call.
Yeah, he might do. Wake up indeed, and well, that'll give him a nice little wake up indeed. And Gagzella and Friday going to go at it now. And well, it really is for Gergo Baldi. He's got to get a move on here if he wants to get past Van Buren, because he knows he's going to have to only have like the last chance to go. I'm actually seeing in the chat, some people are saying that Baldi should do the undercut, but I don't think with 11 laps to go he should.
Well, look at the gap now between Van Buren and Baldi. It's down to less than 3 seconds. This is how critical the tyre life advantage the Valters Automotive car has is going to be. I think Baldi's going to jump him in the pit stop, and if not, he will rejoin from that final pit stop right on the back bumper of Rudy Van Buren. It's going to come right down to the wire. Hang on to your hats, folks. This could be one of the most thrilling finishes in GPVWC Super League that we've seen for ages.
It could be, yeah. It just seems to be the rain that brings these out. Thomas Jacobs is out as well. So now both Woods cars out of the contention or the running. And we're down to 16 runners and riders in this Chinese Grand Prix. But who says that this race is over yet? It won't be over till the checker flag falls at this rate.
Oh, Fidek's got back past Gasgella. Fidek makes the move down the back straight and gets back past Gasgella. Now, this is important. We've only got 16 cars running. If one more retirement pulls himself back into the pits, then every finisher will be in the points. This is critical now for Fidek and Gasgella as they continue their battle. They cannot afford to run into each other and end their race. Baldi is visibly in touch with Rudy Van Buren now. They are down the same straight. Baldi knows that he's got 1 lap longer on his tyres than Van Buren has. Van Buren has got to try and make this car last an extra lap and then do this stint again. I don't think he can beat Baldi. Gergo, don't focus on passing, Rudy. Just get close to him.
Yeah, this could be crucial. Gergo Baldi can see Rudy Van Buren now. He's right behind him. That Vod Bull is there. Finally, after 46 laps, we have a battle for the lead directly.
Big wobble from Van Buren as they came off the hairpin. And this could give Baldi an opportunity to take it before the pit stop. He's not doing it. Look, this is good from Gergo. He's not just flinging it up the inside. He's going to sit on the back of Rudy and let him do the hard work. This is great work from Gergo Baldi. And by doing that, he actually preserves his tyres for an extra few corners. He'll have a faster in-lap.
I think he's waiting for the back straight, to be honest with you. It's the safest opportunity. Rudy Van Buren, his tyres must be screaming out in agony at this point. I think he needs to pit Van Buren at this point. I mean, look how much of a squiggle he's got on. There is no grip left in those wet tyres. He may as well put ice skates on his car. He's not got that much grip. But Gergo Baldi, the one who's going to benefit from all this.
Well, this is the lap that we predicted that Rudy Van Buren was going to pit in. He can't really afford to go any further than this, or he will lose the lead, whatever. Oh, Baldi, careful, mate, careful. This is your golden opportunity. You can take him on the back straight, and I think he will have a little look at it. But Rudy is going to defend like crazy. Watch them as they come down the back straight.
Here comes Gergo now for the lead of this race then. We know it's going to happen and Baldi's going to get through. But can Van Buren get it under brake and brakes for the corner? But he's not got the line. Baldi's got all of the advantage in the world. Goes through. Baldi takes the lead after 46 laps of Van Buren. And now you've got to think the Dutchman must pit, and both do.
They're both in. Now that's unusual. Oh, careful! Goodness me! Now that's unusual. I thought Gergo would actually go an extra lap. Now that's interesting because from my point of view, Gergo should have gone. No, actually he has made that tyre last for the 8th lap. And Van Buren has made it last for the 9th. So they're both in together. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. This is going to be who's purer in speed. Gergo Baldi gets out in front of Van Buren. But they're both going to have the same life of tyres as they finish this race. So it's now a straight sprint.
I think that made sense. I think Baldi's done well to pit at the same lap as Van Buren because he knows he's got him on tyre life. He can do 9-lap stints. Van Buren might not.
Well, Van Buren's certainly finding it harder to do 9-lap stints, but what's going to be important is how tough Baldi holds Van Buren to his own position, because we know that the Vod Bull is quicker in the early stage of the stint. But Baldi needs to get on with this now. He needs to put in a solid lap. He doesn't need to put a screamer in here because the later stage of the stint, he will be the stronger driver. But he needs to be careful. He can't afford to lose ground to Van Buren. This is now Gergo Baldi's race to lose.
Yeah, I think things just got a little bit interesting here in China. We're got a direct battle for the lead, and it's Van Buren who's got to get through, but it's Baldy still. I mean, look how much pace he's got on this first lap. We've said the Vod Bull is so quick in terms of one lap pace on those first couple of laps on the wets, but Rudy Van Buren, well, now it's not his to win anymore. It's Baldy's to lose, because Van Buren, he's closing in, but he's got to be careful about how he goes about this.
Yeah, Van Buren is going to pass Baldy in pure speed on the back straight, but Baldy has got to think very carefully about the tyre. Now, he's made good use of that hairpin. Look, he comes off the racing line. Don't even think about this, mate. I am not going to let you through. It's taken me 46 laps to get by. Try something else, because I am going to hold fast. And he is going to try and make Van Buren cook his own tyres, and then he'll get away in the last couple of laps. But that is not going to be easy. This could be one of the greatest finishes in GPVWC Super League history.
Well, it could be, quite indeed, and Van Buren's not going to let Baldy get away from this at all. Baldy may just have taken the lead, but it doesn't matter to RVB, and he's probably saying, Gergo, mate, yeah, you've just taken the lead, but you can't stop me. I'm Rudy Van Buren.
This is so tight. These two drivers have been pushing it to the ragged edge for the last hour and a half plus, and now it all comes down to the final 7 or 8 laps of this motor race. Absolutely incredible how close we are now. We're on lap 49 of 56, and Rudy Van Buren and Gergo Baldi are now on the lock stops trying to second guess each other. There's 0.4 of a second between them at the last sprint. On the last split, interestingly, actually, Risto Capit as close to within less than 5 seconds of both of these guys, but he's going to need to make another pit stop. So, interestingly, if Capit could have made his tyres last as long as Van Buren, this could have been a 3-way fight.
It could have, yeah, maybe Capit, maybe not going to get that position change, but still third is going to be very respectable for the Estonian, and he'll be reasonably pleased with that, even though he loves winning as much as Van Buren does. But look at this, traffic in the way, there's a red archer getting out of the way.
Well done, Tom. Well done, Tom.
Well then, Thomas Hinds indeed just gets out of the way, and Van Buren now, you imagine, will have another look down the back straight, and Baldy, you'll imagine, will go as defensive as is legally possible.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one as well, because now both tyres are rubbered in. Van Buren still has the pace advantage at this stage, but Baldy, look, he's got so much grip in the middle sector, or into the first part of the third sector, I should say, and that's where he gains the upper hand. He knows now that Van Buren isn't close enough to throw it up the inside, and that risks Rudy Van Buren's race being run. I think those last 2 laps just won Gergo Baldi the race in China.
Maybe it did. Maybe they did. Oh, Baldy gets a squiggle on, though. This is not done and dusted yet. Baldy, if he makes a mistake, has got Van Buren to deal with, but Van Buren himself gets squiggly out of the last corner. As you say, this is now Baldy's to lose, because Van Buren on paces. Capper does come into the pits there.
Sorry, in front of them, we've got Cooper and Gasgella. Gasgella has just come straight out of the pits. Cooper tried to pass him, and Gasgella put straight up the inside there. And this could be a difficult one as well, because we've got these two guys battling for position just in front of Baldi and Van Buren. Now, this could be critical in terms of how they get out of the way of the leaders. So Gasgella and Cooper are only a corner up the road. Gasgella's got so much more pace than Cooper on the fresh boots. So I think Cooper's going to need to make one more pit stop, and that's going to drop him down the order. As we know, he's really struggled after that moment that he was basically a hapless victim, unfortunately. Morris back in the pits for his final set of tyres. I think Bart de Bosch is about to do his. So, Gergo Baldi versus Rudy Van Buren. Well, Baldi has pulled out 1.2 seconds. You could say that could be game over.
Yeah, but Rudy was faster in Sector 1, so he's not done yet in terms of out-and-out pace. I mean, he's slower in Sector 2. Yeah, he's way slower in Sector 2, 6/10. This is Gergo Baldi saying, look, mate, you've lost the lead. Get used to it. You're not going back through.
3 different winners in the first 3 races this could end up being, and that really would make it a fantastic open season championship in GPVWC Super League for 2017. Yes, you can argue that that was Rudy Van Buren's race on a silver platter in Sochi, and it's a real shame that he didn't manage to get that sealed. But now we've got Van Buren winning from Australia at a canter. Alex Cooper pushing Van Buren into the corner, not quite able to beat him on pure pace, but winning the race regardless. And now Gergo Baldi and the Wouters Automotive team have gone away, done their homework, read their stats and gone, do you know what? These Vodball guys, they can be beaten. All we've got to do is outfox them. So far, Outfox successful. 6 laps to go.
Yep, absolutely outfoxed, and well, I'm sure that will put them on a good standing, and Andreas Bottas will be a very happy team manager after this race if they can just keep it up, because I can't stress enough that this race is not over.
No, absolutely not. Baldi has got to hold on to this for 6 laps. Obviously, he is the one who knows how to make those tyres last. He has made every single set of tyres he has been on last for exactly 8 laps. And he is on the verge of getting the job finished and finito with 8 laps on every single stint of tyres. He necessarily hasn't been the smoothest way. Well, no, sorry, he has been the smoothest way. It hasn't been the most aggressive way. Rudy Van Buren and Risto Capit obviously trying to second guess how quick the tyres could be in the opening few sets, hoping they could do in Australia and stretch out the advantage so that it wasn't going to be a problem. But Gergo Baldi just settled into a nice rhythm with the tyres, not pushing them too hard, not pushing them too far, just letting them do exactly what they could do. He's obviously drilled these tyres in training and realised 8 laps is about as quick as I can make them go without losing time. And it's put him in front of Rudy Van Buren with an overtaking move to boot. Absolutely brilliant from Baldi.
Yeah, great, and it might just be what's won him this race. And yeah, well, if it was some dry conditions, Gergo Baldi right now at the absolute worst would be on the probably the super soft tyre, but the wetness has really equalised the tyre strategy as well. We never even got the chance to go into what teams have picked what because it hasn't mattered.
Well, no, indeed, but it's been interesting to see that Wouters have actually made a very simple strategy work in their favour. Vodbull obviously trying to second-guess the opposition. It seemed as though they were starting to do what they were doing in Australia. Basically, they were looking at the 8-lap option and seeing, well, actually, if we go a lap shorter than Wouters, we might be able to put one over on them the same way we did in Australia. But it turned out that actually compromised them in the latter stages of the race because Baldi was never really losing pace. He wasn't gaining anywhere as much as lap time, but in terms of raw pace and the gap to the leaders in front, he was just chipping away at it a couple of tenths of a second per sector every time because he was able to utilize the grip. Gergo Baldi has won this race with pure intelligence.
Yep, grip utilised, time made up, and well, strategy and intelligence done. Gergo Baldi has really established his credentials in a wet weather specialist, I think, in 2017, and as a result of this race. But Van Buren won't go away. He's still chipping away where he can.
Well, that's what he's got to hope for, basically. He's got to hope that Baldi is going to get to the point where he tires before Van Buren. Baldi has worked harder, you could suggest, than Van Buren has, because really the reputation of Van Buren and the Vodbull car has aligned itself in this opening part of the season. That's the car to beat. So you could argue that Baldi has actually done a lot more work preserving the life of these tyres. It's taken a long time for him to get into this position. 46 laps before he was in the lead of a motor race. That's a long, long time. But he's worked incredibly hard to get to that point. He's been incredibly strong and he's been very rhythmic, metronomic throughout. He has not really let the pressure get to him. So it's been a very calm and cool and collected drive by Baldi. And if he wins this, for me, driver of the day without question.
Yeah, and well, you can't really argue against it in that sense. Well, because of the brilliant drive he's put on. Feidig has pitted once more to get himself on a new set of tyres. Must be his last pit stop at this point. So the 8-stop strategy for Nordstrom may be paying dividends, but it seems like 6 has been the way to go here at China today. It sounds ludicrous he'd pit so many times in a Formula 1 race when he had none of them in the olden days, but it's worked for Baldi.
It really has. And you were talking there about the Nordstrom, the 8 pit stop strategy, but let's not forget that one of those pit stops for Feidig was actually because of damage sustained in that little melee before. So the fact that he's there in 7th position is actually pretty impressive how he's been able to fight it back. He could easily have fallen out of the top 10 and stayed there, but he's been able to make this race work for him. And actually, while we've been focusing on the leading 2, it's worth having a look at a couple of the others. The battle for 4th position isn't actually over yet either, because Lee Morris and Bart de Vos, that's an interesting little scrap. In fact, Bart de Vos has only just recently been into the pits for his tyres and come out behind Morris. So de Vos is actually on newer tyres than Morris by a lap. So this is up to Lee Morris to see if he can get away. The gap is 2.4. That's worth keeping an eye on as well, because Lee Morris might not have 4th position sealed yet.
He might not. It might be that he's got a battle on with de Vos here for P4, and well, even though he's the fastest man on the track, he has got a Belgian looking at him in a decent way here, trying maybe to think of, well, he won't be thinking of P4, but he'll be considering it if Morris makes a mistake or if he can get him on pace. Although, last time around, I do believe Morris was, well, actually, no, DeVos, I think, was quicker on the last lap.
Exactly. So I think that DeVos might actually have the advantage on the final lap. He needs to match Morris for pace here. The gap has come down to 2.1. So DeVos is closing in on Morris for definite. That's going to be interesting as we get to the final stages of this race. He's just done a personal best, a 152.9 compared to Morris on a 153.1. Interestingly, though, the last lap for Baldi was a 154.1 as he comes across the line. What's Van Buren? A 153.4. It's back down to within a second. This Grand Prix isn't over yet.
Well, I thought it wasn't, but it's just nice to have confirmation, isn't it? I mean, Van Buren here, he's got traffic in front of Baldi. Has the Dutchman found a way back into this race? I think he has.
Oh my word, I'm not sure I could take too much more drama at the front, but these guys are definitely battling on. Lee Morris and DeVos tightening up a fourth position. So we've got three great fights actually around the circuit, because Maciej Mlinek and Emmanuel Gastiela just in front of these guys are battling away. Gastiela's going to get out of the way and allow Baldi to get through. He's going to hold up Van Buren. He's going to hold up Van Buren in the worst part of the circuit. He now moves over and lets him through, but that's definitely cost Van Buren about a quarter of a second.
A quarter of a second could be crucial in all things, but the gap is still about a second overall. If it were dry, Van Buren would have the DRS. As it stands, he won't because it's wet. But now there's another car ahead of them as well. Baldi's going to get through here, and I think that is actually one of the street fighters. That might be Mlinek, but I don't think it is. He's actually quite a way behind, and he's stuck behind on the exit here, and well, now he's going to have to try, and well, Mlinek can't compromise his exit, but Van Buren and his own, well, he gets out to the side there. He's going to probably let Rudy through too. Van Buren goes over to try and draft Mlinek, as he should do, to get as much speed as he can, because he's not going to get any on Baldi. But Van Buren now, he knows this is probably his best chance.
Well, we've got Baldi versus Van Buren separated by a second, and Morris versus DeVos separated by a second. And now that Mlinek has let the leaders through, we've got Mlinek and Gastiela separated by less than a second. This is an amazing trio of showdowns as we go into the final 2 laps of this motor race. Baldi versus Van Buren. Now, that was a critical sector for Baldi. He managed to gain 0.4 of a second on Rudy Van Buren. That opens up the gap a little bit more, but Baldi has got to be calm here. He can't afford to make mistakes. If he drops the ball once, that is an open invitation for Van Buren, even if he doesn't go off the circuit. That twitch is not helpful, Gergo. You have got to keep this on the island, mate.
It's so difficult to do so. That's the problem with the lack of grip these cars have. The fact that the tyres will be wearing down. They won't have any grip to deal with, and that's so easy to make mistakes.
But he's lucky because Van Buren's getting a worse deal. He's getting a worse deal out of this one. He lost 0.4 of a second himself to Baldi. So even though Baldi's struggling, Van Buren's struggling more.
Yeah, Van Buren won't be happy. He has probably received the worst deal out of the two. And, yeah, not a good trail deal for Van Buren in terms of time versus track position. But Baldi will be grinning with glee. He's come out better out of all this. But, again, this is not over yet if Baldi does not get a good sector 2. I imagine he will do. 35-3, well, they're equal. So, nothing gained, nothing lost. But the gap is going up again. And Van Buren needs a similar sort of situation to what he had before if he's going to be back in this race, because we're on lap 55 now. It's going to be the last lap on the next lap, and Baldi's got such a definite gap.
Just behind them on the road, we've got Gastiela making the move on Maciej Mlinek. Mlinek defends to the inside. Gastiela's going to get him on the run down the straight. He's not going to need the braking zone. Gastiela gets through. Now Mlinek gets back onto the underside of Gastiela to try and get him back again. He's not going to be able to make the pass through, but behind this, we've also got DeVos closing up on Lee Morris. The gap has come down to 0.7 of a second. So fourth position, still very much up for grabs as Lee Morris tries to get away from the Belgian Bart de Vos as Baldi goes into the final lap. Bring it home, boy.
Well, we'll see if he can. Anything can go wrong in the final lap, but Baldi just knows now he's got 2 seconds of Van Buren. Van Buren will be pushing like there is no limit to that Red Bull speed, and Baldi will just want to get it home at this point because I'd like to say he can phone it home, but with 2 seconds, he can't. He's got to keep on it. He cannot go into autopilot. Van Buren is a threat as much as he has been this race. And, well, Baldy needs to keep on it, but at the same time, he has to pace himself, because if he makes a mistake now, then that could be critical. But he's got 2/10 on Van Buren in Sector 1.
I'm watching Morris and DeVos as well. DeVos is going to be on the bumper of Morris going into the final lap. So Morris is going to have to work very hard indeed to keep DeVos at bay, because DeVos's tyres are a lap newer as well. So Morris will be on the defensive going into this last lap.
Yeah, Morris is going to be on the defensive indeed. DeVos is chasing him down, and this could be fourth for the Belgian and fourth for Kernow. It would be a great result for them. Linek Gagzala in its own right, a very close battle as well. Van Buren is just not catching. He's lost 7/10 to Baldy in Sector 2. He can't keep up.
The tyres have gone.
He doesn't have the pace, he doesn't have the tyres, he does not have any resources anymore. It's all gone from Van Buren. He has spent that Vodbull speed. And compared to Baldy, who has the resources, he just can't compete anymore. And we are probably, as you said, Jake, we're going to see 3 from 3, 3 teams from 3 maybe even. And 2017 Super League, as Baldy rounds the second last corner, is going to be a brilliant season if this is anything to go by.
What a fantastic race won by Gergo Baldi. He has done everything he needed to. Valters Automotive have outfoxed Vodbull. The checkered flag flies, and it's a victory for Gergo Baldi. The Hungarian has done it. He has done it in style, beating Rudy Van Buren in a straight fight. Absolutely magic display from Gergo Baldi. What a victory for the Hungarian. Van Buren has been defeated, and look, they draw alongside each other. No doubt a respectable job between the two of them. That was an epic fight, well worth watching. Risto Capit comes home in third position, the Estonian having driven very well indeed. Now Morris and DeVos, they are nose to tail on the back straight. Is DeVos going to get something out of the final turn, because he's not close enough in the hairpin? If Morris doesn't have the grip, DeVos could outfox him in the final turn. No, it's not going to happen. He's not close enough. They've got a slower car in front of them, Dennis Jordan, but Morris is going to be able to hold on to this. One more lap, and it might have gone another way. Oh, Jordan spun coming out of the final lap. Morris hesitates. DeVos is going to try one last time, but Morris gets there first. My goodness, that was close. DeVos finishes up in 5th position, but just one more lap, and that would have been even more exciting. Florian Geyer is going to bring it home in 6th position. His teammate, David Fidek, will be in 7th place. Kashchela has already finished in 8th place, a lap down. Maciej Minek is 9th. Cooper, a very disappointed 10th position for him. Thomas Hinz in 11th from David Francic, Dennis Jordan, Jason Muscat, and Daniel Sharanku gets the final point with Adrian McNaughton in 16th position. Josh, what a performance, though, from Gergo Baldi. What a superstar.
What a race indeed. And, well, he out-strategied him ultimately. He just did it what he had to do. Baldy got the win from Van Buren. He beat the Dutchman. And, well, Van Buren's going to get 20 points out of this race. I do believe that, actually, Morris is going to get 13 points from this race. Van Buren's going to get 20. Van Buren should overtake by 1 point in this. Well, actually, no. Gergo Baldi, I think, is going to be on 47 points. Rudy Van Buren's going to be on 45. Lee Morris on 44. There's going to be 3 points separating the cars after round 3.
I love GPVWC Super League in 2017. It has just given us one heck of a show. And we've still got, 15 more races to go in the Drivers' Championship. This is absolutely brilliant. Every time we think we're going to see a great show, we get a better one. Sochi was better than Australia. Shanghai was better than both of them put together. An absolutely incredible motor race. And we have got so many incredible drivers to talk to after what has genuinely left me speechless. I've seen GP3 races that weren't as good as that. Absolutely incredible and magnificent display from so many drivers there as well. We have to, as we've already said, talk about Lee Morris. He got on with that quietly in 4th position, but he was very, very solid throughout. Even when the car wasn't really going his way, he's bagged some very useful points there. Come the end of the season, that could be crucial as far as his campaign is concerned. And again, from Nordsian, okay, they weren't on a winning pace today, and they did have circumstances go against them. But again, Gaia in 6th, Fidek in 7th. Those guys are banging in the points whenever they can.
Yeah, and points means prizes in Super League as it does in any series. But this is the thing, like, even for the likes of Lee Morris, who's going to be so close to Van Buren, he's had 3 races now, and he's been in the top 5 in all of them. That is just, it shows consistency is as good as race winning.
Well, Andreas Wouters watching on as his boy Diego Baldi gets the victory. He will be absolutely delighted with the way that worked. Let's try and get the drivers as they come out of their cars, and we'll bring them in for a chat. We'll start with the Belgian, Bart de Vos, after a fantastic closing end to the race. Bart, that was so close. If only we'd have had one more lap, that would have been such an incredible showdown. You must be worn out.
Yeah, it was a tough race. It was an amazing race, really, all race. In the end, I was calculating the laps for the pit stops in my head all the time, but Lee had the track position, and in the end, I couldn't make it fast. It was an amazing race.
Now, it was really important all through that race in terms of tyre life. Were you finding that you were actually having to change your strategy throughout, or did the game plan kind of come together?
Yeah, I changed some strategy. In the end, I did less laps on the tires because I noticed the last 2 laps I was doing every stint, I was losing too much time, and in the end, the laps number came out, so I had to do less laps on one stint of tires.
So you got 8 pit stops in the bag there. Were you kind of hoping? Were you one of the teams that were expecting it to dry out later on? I mean, what was your game plan going in?
Yeah, we anticipated dry conditions as well because we set the car up for something in between wet and dry. In the end, it was wet, so we couldn't know. A full wet setup would have been better, but yeah, it was good as it is.
Okay, well, fantastic job, Bart. Thank you so much for an amazing evening's entertainment. You were absolutely on it. Well done.
Thank you.
Right, Josh, who do we have next to bring into the interview room? Well, bear with me a second. I'm not sure where Josh has wandered off to.
Oh, I'm here. Sorry.
Oh, there we are. Apologies, Josh. I thought we lost you there for a moment.
Sorry, I just had my microphone muted. I must have hit the mute button. Right. Shall we bring somebody else in if we're done interviewing Bart?
Indeed, we are done with Bart. So who do we have next in the room?
We have his team. We have his team manager, but we don't have him at the moment. Who we have at the moment is the Flying Dutchman himself, Rudy van Buren.
Hello.
Great to have you with us, Rudy. And well, as Jake Sanson says, wow, what a race for you. You were battling, not directly, but indirectly with Gergo Baldi pretty much throughout the whole last half of that race. But how was it for you in that football?
Well, intense to say the least. The evening started off well, quality went off good, beginning of the race was good, and was kind of distancing people. Kind of went to sleep there in a way of not exploiting the strategy enough. So around the 3rd pit stop, we found out like that Gergo was going 1 stop less than us, so we tried to cover it, but that meant we got to go so far on the tires and giving us such a hard time. I had absolutely nothing on him in the last stint, so heads off to them on their first victory, I guess.
Yeah, and well, it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out in terms of the Drivers' Championship. I do believe on maths, you will actually retake the lead of the Drivers' Championship or get close to it with that points bonus for you there. So you'll be right up at the top again with those points. I mean, you'll be on 45 and you'll have Lee Morris not far behind. So it's going to be interesting to see how you're going to fare in the Drivers' Championship here.
Well, I'll take that for now after disaster from last race, where we had pretty much the race wrapped up and the technical failure happened. So I'll take it for now.
Yeah, I guess ultimately it's about taking what you can, and it's going to bolster Vodball's result as well, because Risto Capit, remember, he got such a good result, your teammate as well. It's really going to help your team's championship charge.
Yeah, definitely. Risto did a really good job, but he was on the strategy that I was originally on as well, going 1 stop further. So that showed the gap in the end, but getting a P2 and P3 for the team ain't too bad.
Well,
yeah, and well,
Risto's in the room with us, actually, while we're talking about that. Risto, we were just chatting away with Rudy. You guys really did a fantastic job in terms of getting both cars home. It must have been really tough out there.
Yeah, it was. Well, Rudy could manage to keep up with Gergo, but I had no chance to go 1 pit less. I had the pace kind of, but just destroyed the tires too much. It was very hard.
And you obviously had a slightly different strategy at times compared to Rudy. Were you guys basically on a split strategy to try and figure out which one was faster?
Well, we just did our best. The first stint I had to pit 1 lap earlier, just so that we don't get uh, boxed up on top of each other in the box. But he extended his stint 1 lap longer, so I went 1 lap too short in the first stint. But all the other stints, I had no idea where I will end up because we did not plan through a wet race. I just went as far as I could every stint. I drove as clean as I could, and fortunately, in the end, the pit stops added up nicely, so there was no too long or too short stint. But yeah, I did my best, but today it was not enough. But still, not a bad result.
But in terms of the speed and the pace, it was there for most of the race. I mean, if you hadn't have had to make that extra pit stop, so let's say you'd have gone that extra lap longer on the first stint, there could have been a three-way fight for victory today.
Well, I would have had to go 1 lap longer on each stint, but that would have meant going slower. So no, there would have not been a three-way fight. These two guys are a bit above me in talent, so in such conditions today, no.
Well, Josh, final word for Rudy or Risto?
Yeah, one more question for the both of you just before we wrap this particular interview with you two up. Obviously, good results for you in the team's championship, but you know, you're going to be leading coming out of it for football as well. But just a more general question, are you enjoying working with each other's teammates?
That's a difficult silence. Yeah, Risto's awesome. I don't know anyone who's better in Motec in data and setups than Risto. So yeah, for me personally, it's a big help. And it's a very nice guy to get along with. So
I also say yes, Rudy is the best guy in driving the car. So when we start practicing, he goes beep 1 second faster per lap than me, and then the rest of the practice sessions are me just trying to keep up. So yeah, we probably complement each other, so it's good. It's the best teammate to have.
Well, there you go. Match made in heaven indeed. Risto Kevin and Rudy Van Buren, thank you both for joining us.
thank you. Bye.
Thanks.
There you go,
So-
the Vodbull bromance. There we are.
There we go. So, well, Jake, who we're going to have next? This is the question.
Do you know what? I think it's time to bring in the two men that masterminded the victory. It's time to get the two biggest names in Shanghai into the room. First of all, our race driver winner, Gergo Baldi, the Hungarian, who is still riding the crest of the wave. And, of course, team boss of Valters Automotive, Andreas Valters. They both join us in the room. Gergo, Andreas, you don't really get to win a race better than the way you won that one. That was incredible. Gergo, how do you feel right now?
Well, I feel amazed. Yeah. So of course, I tried to win a race this season. So that was the plan even before Melbourne. But I didn't expect that to come that early. So yeah, it was a huge team effort. Let's be honest. We worked together really well, both with Daniel, Andreas, and Dennis. So I have to say a huge thank you for them. But yeah, awesome feeling.
And of course, this means now in terms of the championship fight that it really is game on, because you now have proved that the Vodbull team can be beaten.
Well, it was a different situation, you know, raining really hard. So on dry, I don't know if we would have the pace that they had, but we'll work on achieving the level where they are. So.
Okay, well, Gergo, fantastic performance. Andreas, I mean, that must have been a really tough race to win because, of course, you guys had to be very careful of strategy and second guessing what Vodbull were doing. Were you just resolute? No, we're sticking with our plan A.
Well, I think it was just amazing to watch how the race unfolded, to be honest. In the beginning, it was very clear that Vodbull were the favorites as they were before, that they would be very hard to beat, but I could already see, because of course I was focused on seeing on what Gergo was doing, that he had amazing consistency, and also the setup that Daniel made, together with Gergo and Dennis, of course, was just working very well. And it was great to see that Gergo was able to stay out longer, chip away on that time, and also just stay consistent. And I think it was just thoroughly deserved. All the effort the guys spent on it was amazing. And I can just say, I'm speechless. This is a very proud moment.
Well, I'm glad you made a point about Daniel Sharanku's contribution, because although, yeah, he didn't have the greatest of races himself, but we have to make the point, you know, his setup work going into this weekend, he just got bad luck in the race today, because he would have been in the points, in a higher position in the points as well. But he was instrumental in making this race win happen.
Yeah, and it's not just about the setup; it's also about the mentality in the team. It's about working hard. It's about enjoying not only the race itself, but everything that comes before it. And it's just the environment you want. And we've been looking for this environment for 5 years now, since Formula Challenge, I think. And it feels so good to have come to this moment, basically.
Brilliant.
So congratulations to all of them.
Fantastic, Matt. It's been great to watch. Josh, your questions for Andreas and Gergo?
Well, Gergo, obviously, congratulations on the win. And, well, we're following a bit of a trend here in Super League. Whoever wins the race leads the Drivers' Championship, because by my maths, you've got it by a couple of points now.
Really, I didn't calculate that, so I have no idea. But yeah, that's a good feeling. But you know, the season's still long, so we have a lot of work to do. So.
Yeah, and we've had 3 different drivers now, Andres, winning 3 different races for 3 different teams. And you, being Wouters Automotive, are one of them now. That's 25 points for you. As a team manager, obviously, the win is great, but what's going through your head having just won a race?
Yeah, stunned, just enjoying the moment. And then I think the guys are also looking forward to go to the next one and try to prove that we can do it again. We know it will be hard. The Vodbull is strong. There's other strong teams. We had the advantage here that we were very much prepared for the rain. We will not always have this advantage. But still, the potential is there. The drive is there, and let's go for it.
Yeah, let's go for it indeed. And, well, if you can do this, then you can do anything, really, I guess, is ultimately what the message is. Well done, Gergo Baldi and Andreas Waters. A very successful Wouters Automotive here at Shanghai.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic performance. Absolutely brilliant display. Well, let's talk to the championship winning team, or certainly the championship winning driver from last year. Both drivers for Notian Racing join us in the interview room this time. It is David Feideck and Florian Geyer. David, a very difficult race for you guys. You certainly proved that you had the tenacity to make the right moves, but for whatever reason, the car just wasn't quite on pace today.
Hello. Yeah, good evening. Yeah, it's difficult race. We didn't test properly in the wet until probably a couple of hours before the race started. But saying that, our pace wasn't too bad in quali. I think it was under a second to the pole man. But yeah, I got in a tangle on the first lap, and that damaged the car and was pulling slightly left down the straight, so it was already a bit slow. And then I was coming up to overtake Fran, and it was kind of a 50-50 move. He's already apologized for it, but I think I'm more at fault. But, you know, it's one of those things that damaged my car more. And then, I don't know if you saw it going down the back straight, he lagged onto my front wing and it just flipped me upside down for about 10 seconds. And
yeah, we did.
I got to wave to the fans a bit and get a bit closer and landed. But yeah, after that, the car was destroyed. So it was just, the tyre wear was even more. So I had to do an extra pit, which put me behind flow. And yeah, just everything went wrong today. So yeah, it's just one of them to brush off and move on. But looking at the positives in clear air, we were matching times to Baldy and Rudy. Maybe it was because we were on fresher tyres at the time. I don't know, but we were still doing the same times. Yeah. Didn't get to use our ultra sauce, which we had a good strategy for, but yeah, it's one of those days. So street circuit next. Valencia, yeah, go well on street circuits and heavy braking tracks. So fingers crossed for the next one, because the start of this season has been a disaster so far.
I know it's been a difficult one. I mean, Flo, obviously you've brought the Nodjian into the top 6, which I suppose is recompense in a certain way. You got yourselves into a few scraps. You got into a few scraps as well yourself, Flo. It was a difficult one for you too.
Oh yeah, Jesus, man. Where do I start? I don't know. Qualifying. First of all, want to congratulate Björgo on the win. Amazing job. Yeah, as I said, qualifying or rain at all. I'm pretty much the worst rain driver or wet driver on the planet. I just can't figure out how to go fast in those conditions. So, yeah, qualifying. I had a bit more pace in, so I think from P6.
Your headset's gone, Flo.
Sorry, better now. Yeah, I think I had a bit more pace in it in qualifying, but yeah, overall I'm just happy I didn't spin and put the car in a good position. Because races like these,
I'm afraid it's a bit difficult, unfortunately, to hear Flo. It's a difficult one though, because Josh, we were just talking about these guys at the end of the race. You know, the consistency and the pace was there for these guys to bring it home in the points. But
is it better now?
That's better. There we go, Flo. So yeah,
Okay.
Apologies. Do carry on. Do carry on from where you were.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you know, pace was alright, and I'm glad I brought the car home in one piece. Races like this, you just need to finish and score the most points you can, and then next one we right back at the
Sorry, basically that's how our race went.
Unfortunately, it's a bit of a metaphor for it, isn't it?
Yep.
That's kind of how it's gone. It's such a shame as well, because you guys initially it looked like you'd have the pace to take it to the Wouters and the Hawkeyes of this world.
Yeah, we could have. We just need the luck on our side. Like I said, the first 3 races have been pretty poor from my own standards, let alone what's gone on track. But I've got the hardest working teammate known anywhere. So both of us pushing each other hard the next couple of weeks for Valencia. We've got a nice update coming, so hopefully that puts us back at the front and Flo gets his mic fixed.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're looking forward to seeing what you guys can bring to the party on the Spanish Marina. Thank you so much, guys, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thanks, Jake.
Right, let us chat to one of the world's fastest Australians, Josh. I think it's time to bring the continuing adventures of Thomas Hinz into the room. What do you say?
I think it is, mate. Hello, Thomas. That was
that
confident,
accent,
wasn't
Josh.
it?
I can't
Thomas
believe you went there with the accent.
It's all good. It's been done many a times, so you kind of get used to it.
Well, I just lost my job, but you've had a decent race, Thomas. Problems at the start, but you recovered well.
Yeah, as seeing the broadcast there, yeah, it was a bit of a melee at the start. Obviously, first corner was that big crash. I just scooted around it. Was very lucky there, but that sort of helped me get into the points early on. It was in that scrap with sort of Redshaw and Jacobs and all those guys. And it was good fun. Very close stuff, and obviously tricky conditions just sort of emphasised that even more with how difficult it was. And then, of course, last corner, I think Jacobs just didn't know what I was. I think he got confused with what I was doing, because I was in that last corner. I was never going to go try and hold it around the outside of the last corner in those conditions, because it just wouldn't have worked, I don't think. So I was going to try and get the cut back, and I don't think Jacobs was prepared for me to do that. And got the tap and around we went, which is a bit annoying, but kept on it. Got back in the groove and just sort of worked away, chipped away. It seemed I could make the tyres last sort of 8-9 laps. I sort of tried to extend my stints a bit more, because I noticed the likes of Redshaw on that seemed to do sort of 6 or 7 laps, and they were doing more pace but more stops. So I was sort of hoping to get back at them through that. Just kept sort of plugging away, and a few people had incidents and issues, and found myself in 12th at the end behind Dennis, my partner in VEC. So that was always interesting battling him. And was behind him at the end there, and then I was sort of sitting there going, I wouldn't mind not getting 12th for once, because I've got 2 12ths already, and I was like, I would like to break that. And then he had a little spin out of the second last corner, and I just went yoink, thank you, got 11th, brought it home to the end. So good result. Considering we started further down, started 17th, I think it was. So pretty happy with that. And more solid points. I think that's all we're really after at the moment. As Jason and obviously got the points as well, which is good. So yeah, I think we're pretty content with that. So yeah, hopefully good signs of the future, that we can just keep moving up the field as we go.
Well, that will hopefully be the goal indeed. Just keeping on going, moving up the field, the order as you go along. And you're really proving your credentials as a Super League driver now, I feel. Because, you've had some very good results so far this season, and you're proving it now, yourself to really be, one of the top drivers in Super League. And, well, things can go wrong sometimes. But on the whole, how is Super League for you? Is it enjoyable?
I wouldn't say I'm one of the best in Super League. I'd say maybe midfield at best, but yeah, no, I really enjoy it. I've always really enjoyed Super League. It's just I'm a big fan of the longer races. That's why I really enjoy endurance as well. For me, I know my strength because I'm not, as again in qualifying sort of proved, I'm not the quickest on a single lap. That's not where my strength is. My strength is sort of consistency and just pumping out solid laps, lap after lap after lap. So because of that, I don't think I'm as good at sprint races, but sort of longer races, I tend to shine a bit more. And that's why I think in Super League, it sort of fits me because it's obviously longer races. So I can really just pump out the laps and get into a really good groove. So yeah, no, it's really enjoyable. I love it. It's tough, of course. It's super tough. And there's some ridiculously talented drivers in the field that I just, they're just in a league to me. But hey, I really enjoy it. And, whenever I can get a decent result like that, that to me, that 11th is almost like a top 5 to me. So I'm having a lot of fun. And again, big thanks to Nikos for taking me on in Red Archer because I know I haven't got the experience in SL of some of the others. So yeah, big thanks to Nikos for taking me on and just the team in general. Red Archer, they're a great bunch of guys and we all get on really well. And yeah, really, really good team to race for. So yeah, hopefully a good season ahead.
Yeah, hopefully a good season ahead indeed. Thanks so much for joining us, Thomas. As ever, a pleasure to talk to you. And, well, of course, let's see how you go for the rest of the season now.
Thank you, Josh, and thanks to the broadcast guys as always. Hopefully, look forward to watching it later on. Looking good from what I've seen so far.
Not at all. We're enjoying it. We're absolutely in love with it.
We love Super League as much as you do.
Excellent.
Fantastic.
Cheers, buddy. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
I think there's time for just one more, and it's worth going for the man who just by about what was it? Just under 0.2 of a second managed to hold on to that 4th position with a daring do maneuver in the final corner to just hang on in there, avoiding the spinning Dennis Jordan. It is, of course, Lee Morris. Lee Morris, fantastic drive today. 4th position. Is that about where you expected to be?
Hello? Lee, you there?
I'm not sure if Lee is there after all. I thought he might be.
I hope he
not,
is.
Though.
I hope he is. Maybe he's having a couple of problems, but
right. Well, right. So more than one driver needs a new mic, potentially.
Wow.
I don't know. Well, hopefully Lee will join us before we wrap things up completely. He is our last that we are due to chat with, but it was a fantastic final corner because obviously Bart de Vos was right on the tail and Dennis Jordan was the man in front and he lost it coming out of the final turn. That could have very easily put both of them off. But no, Lee Morris stood fast, managed to get that 4th position done. So all's fair in love and war, Josh. That was a great end to the race.
Yeah, ultimately, got that 4th place. He proved himself to be the fastest on track numerous times throughout that race. And really, he's shown just why he is up there in the direct championship fight. And even though he might not have got the result he wanted this race, he's still going to be up there fighting with the likes of Baldi, fighting with the likes of Van Buren for the championship. It's shades of 2011 all over again.
It certainly is. Last chance for Lee Morris before we wrap up the feed. Lee, are you there at all? No, possibly not. Okay, well, we'll try and catch up with him again at Valencia in Spain, which, of course, is the next race of the championship in 2 weeks' time. Josh, are we genuinely going to potentially see 4 different winners from 4 races? Could we see the likes of David Fidok or Risto Capit or maybe even Lee Morris get up to the top step of the podium?
Do you know what it is, Jake? I would not put it past this field that we have this year for it to happen. I would not put it past them at all. We saw it last year with Van Buren, Columbus, Masuli and Fidek. We might full well see it again this year.
Well, I think after we've all had a proper soaking here in Shanghai, I think it's time to close proceedings. Josh, final word on you. Driver of the day, team of the day.
Oh, wow. That is a tough one. I really can't look beyond Wouters Automotive, but you know what? I'm going to take the easy route out, and I'm going to say Wouters Automotive and Gergo Baldi.
I think you would have to say, yeah, just the way they outfoxed Rudy Van Buren and Vodbull today, it's certainly sent a little bit of a comfort to the other 10 teams on the starting grid. They genuinely have a chance to crack that unshakable force that is Rudy Van Buren in a Vodbull. So let's see if that continues through the rest of the season. Josh, as always, it has been a sheer pleasure and a dream. Every time we work together, GPVWC makes our life easy and gives us a great show.
It's like it wants us to commentate on it. Honestly, it just does make our lives so easy. The fantastic racing we have, and of course, pleasure to be alongside you once again, Jake. You definitely make my life a lot easier.
It's great fun, isn't it? That's what I love about it more than anything else. It is just great fun.
It's lovely fun. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't fun. And well, the quality of racing is just fantastic. It's one of those series you just get addicted to it, really.
You certainly do. I am now a fully thoroughbreded GPVWC Super League super fan. Thank you very much indeed to Josh Anderson. A huge thank you as well to all the people behind the scenes, to Argo Teder on cams, and to everybody else for putting things together behind the scenes, including the talents of Mike Pittman, of Will Panisi, of David, and all the boys behind the scene who are putting everything together. A huge thank you to all of those. We will be back same time, same place, 2 weeks from now on the streets of Valencia. Oh yes, no Catalonia this year. We've switched to Valencia, the streets of Spain, in the Marina, and it's going to be a really interesting one. Will there be a fourth different winner of the championship, or will any of our 3 winners start a winning streak that could well see them champion at the end of 2017? Only 2 weeks of hard grafting and updating will give us a proper answer. I'm Jake Sanson. On behalf of myself, Josh Anderson, Argo Teder, the rest of the GPVWC broadcast team, thank you very much for watching. See you in 2 weeks.